Good morning, y'all. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thanks for joining. Listen, y'all come on in, man. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope everybody having a good day so far. So far. Good morning, Detroit.
Good morning. Good morning.
What
Good
is the
morning.
happening?
Well, YouTube streets are on fire this morning.
I wouldn't know. What's going on?
Well, I guess everybody's making me their topic this morning.
Really? It's only 11 a.m. actually.
Oh, they got up early this morning to make me their topic.
Oh, well, that's lovely. You should feel flattered.
Now that's not my house.
What house? What are you talking about?
Well, Biscuit put up a house that he said was my house, but now they're saying it's not my house.
Biscuit?
Yeah, Biscuit's in on the fun now too.
Oh
yeah.
God.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the rest of the gang to pop up. And now, of course, we have the homeless empath. She's doing an entire live about me today.
Oh God.
Just feels special.
I'm so glad I don't tap into this shit because I cannot. I just can't.
Just very special this morning.
I just can't. Welcome everybody to the chat. I appreciate y'all joining me this morning. Y'all please make sure y'all hit the like button if you don't mind, if you feel so inclined. I go. I can't do truth. I can't. When are you going live? So I know you're coming with a banger.
Tonight,
Oh, really?
Liz has been knocking on my door all morning, just calling me and emailing me and texting me and knocking on the door, and I won't answer her. So it's gonna be Miss Liz got something to say. And she's just, man, she is really upset this morning. So,
What time are you going? 7,
normal
8?
time. Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 Central.
Okay. So that means I need to come back at about 4 and try to get my live in. Let me get this live in so I can
Oh, but we're right now our Friday live is the topic.
What Friday live?
The Friday live, this Friday live about this.
What? I'm confused. So what are you going to live about tonight?
No, not that. No, they're going live about our Friday live right now.
Okay.
You know how I'm a racist, how I always say black people got old cars,
Mm.
and she brought up, you know, Pam keeping it real. He said that about Pam keeping it real.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, Pam keeping it real did have an old car. It was a 2001 Caravan, and it burnt up on the side of the road. I didn't make that up. I didn't make that up. I even put the police report on my community wall to prove.
I don't get it. Like this, you know what?
Well, whatever it is, they're spinning everything, and I'll talk about all the things they spin. It was like completely spin everything, and I'll talk about it. I put a lot of stuff on my community wall, so people stop by there and look. All the spins are a lot of the spins are on the community wall right now that I just thought
I do want to clear
funny
up
as
one
hell.
thing. The only thing I want to clear up on this channel is the fact that no matter what is said, as far as, and I'm not gonna even say his name. I'm just gonna say the child because I still see him as a child, and I think it's really disgusting to blame a child for what a grown psychopath is doing. But I will say this on my end: I'm never ever um, going to come for that child.
Oh, they threatened us with that. That was a threat.
You can't threaten me with nothing because at this
If
point,
if we go after the child, they're going to tell on us because
listen, I didn't go
he's
after the
protected.
child.
He's
I didn't go
protected.
after. I didn't go after the child when the child came after me. I already know what his mom. God, I'm not gonna do this globe today. I'm sick of it. I'm not gonna I'm not. Like I said, I didn't go after the child when the child. I'm not going to entertain or I'm not gonna entertain this shit to that young man. I'm gonna give a damn what they say, what they try to put on him, what they say he did. I'm not gonna do it. And the fact of the matter is, I don't even understand why they hadn't contacted this child. Well, I pretty much know how to contact his father for facts, but I'm just staying out of it. Like I get emails on it pretty much on a daily from this young man, and I don't even respond, and I'm not gonna respond. Um, but I think it's pretty sad to sit up here and use a child for your agenda. But of course, this person uses her family for an agenda. So
Yeah, the sympathy. They use the sympathy.
So
I
I'm
would,
not, I'm not, I'm not gonna entertain it. I'm not gonna talk. I would never come after him anyway. Because first of all, that line, I believe him when he said he didn't create that channel. I
he did.
absolutely believe him.
She
I
did,
absolutely,
and she
yeah, I
knows it.
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I busted her, so she went back and hid the email, so that the details link is gone altogether. So that
Mm-hmm.
tells me that you fucked up and you knew you fucked up. So you went back and hid the details.
That's why I took what 3, 4 days to respond.
Mhm.
Yeah. Shout out to Miss Janice. Thank you, Miss Janice, for supporting the channel early on. I appreciate you so much. I honestly do appreciate when this channel gets supported because you know it's the fact that when it comes to channels like this and others, the support is really hard to come by. So I appreciate you, sweetie. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. We'll talk about it in your life because I think to me honestly, certain stuff that go on this internet, it really makes my stomach turn. And involving a child, not only a child to me, I don't give a fuck. 18 years old to me is still a child, and the fact that this dude has special needs or whatever, and you using him for an agenda, I that to me honestly, that's just disgusting, and I can't. I just can't. I'm not gonna entertain it. I'm not gonna. So listen, let's get back into
Okay. Speaking of special needs, uh, during his girlfriend's testimony, right?
mhm.
It's been on my mind since Friday.
So you're
And
talking about Dinkins' girlfriend,
yes, Dinkins'
right?
girlfriend.
Hmm.
So when when the prosecutor or cross-examined her, uh, she said, "How did you feel when you walked up to the car?" And she said, "I felt sick to my stomach. I felt nauseated. I, I,
Hmm.
I felt angry."
Hmm.
Why did you feel all those things? Because
Because
you,
she knew he had done something.
yes, when you looked in that car and did not see that little girl in the car, and he's asking for her clothes, you knew he did something.
Hmm.
That's why your stomach felt nauseated and was doing flips and it hurt because you knew it. But yet, when the police came there, you said nothing.
Hmm.
And he wasn't around.
Yeah, he had pretty much walked out when the cop was in the house.
Yeah, he was in the cop was in the house with her by herself. That
Right.
was the time for her to say something's not right. He left with her at 3:30 this morning, and
Hmm.
when he came back, she wasn't with him. Right there, that changes the entire investigation. Now they're looking for him, not as to be questioned, as a suspect.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
at 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever, I think, no, this was like 7:30 in the morning, they would have been looking for him and he would have led them right to her if they
Yep.
had been looking for her at 7:30.
Yeah, because I can guarantee you before he actually went to the police station or whatever, he went
He,
back.
he went
What
back
would you
there.
say? He had like 4 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he went to the police station between 12 and 12:30. The cops camera said 7:30.
Hmm.
So he had 4 hours and he was doing something in the 4 hours. They may have found him in the middle of cleaning up the car.
Oh
They may
yeah.
have they
Yeah.
may have found him at Credit Island
Hmm.
if she had just said something.
And she had said something.
Or we don't know when he uh, did what he did to her. She could have been in that, whatever. They may have found him before he did something. We don't
Mhm.
know because you can't tell time of death.
Right. Right. Shout out to the chat.
And
Thank you, Sugar.
the only reason they charged him with kidnapping and murder and nothing else because they couldn't prove he did anything else.
Right. Because of the decomposition.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty sad, but I can guarantee I'm willing to bet money that he did something. That's
Oh yes, he did something. He was trying to do something in the apartment, and she wasn't having it, so he knew he had to move her.
mm-hmm.
But my thing is, my problem is with the girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah. Let me share the screen. We're gonna get into it, y'all. So this is another FBI agent on the stand, y'all. This is what we ended off on yesterday. Okay.
Submit for any type of trace evidence.
Oh, hold on, I need to fast forward. It's this one. All right.
Please have a seat.
Please state your name for the record and spell your first name.
My name is Tiffany Smith, spelled Tiffany.
What is your occupation?
I'm a forensic examiner in the DNA casework unit of the FBI laboratory.
How long have you been employed with the FBI?
Since August of 2010.
Can you describe your prior educational background?
Yes, I have a bachelor's of science degree from West Virginia University in forensic and investigative sciences, and I have a master's of science degree also from West Virginia University in biology.
When did you complete your formal education?
In 2010.
Once you completed your formal education, did you have prior employment before coming to the FBI?
No, I was hired by the FBI laboratory directly after graduate school.
Okay. Upon being hired, what unit were you assigned to?
I was assigned to the DNA casework unit, formerly known as the nuclear DNA unit.
All right. And so has your entire career been focused on DNA analysis, essentially?
Yes, that and body fluid identification.
Can you describe the training that you've received involving DNA analysis?
Yes, so when I was hired by the FBI laboratory in August of 2010, I went through a 1.5-year training program. And in that training program, I performed the same job duties that I currently perform. However, I was under the direct supervision of qualified analysts. This included determining which items to test, directing a team of biologists to perform that testing, reviewing the results of that testing, writing reports that were then reviewed by qualified analysts. I also went through a series of oral board exercises and moot court examinations. And I also worked in the laboratory on mock items of evidence so that I could understand the practices and procedures done by the biologists.
Okay. And following even that initial training, do you go through regular training or go through regular coursework throughout your career with the FBI?
Yes, after that initial training was complete, we do something called continuing education, and that is requirements that we do every single year. We are required to have a certain amount of hours every year, and that could include going to conferences, presentations, reading scientific journals or articles, things of that nature.
What is DNA?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and it is our hereditary material. We receive half of our DNA from our mother and half from our father, and it controls not only what we look like, but also all the chemical processes going on within our body.
Where is DNA found?
It is found within our cells, and our bodies are made up of trillions of cells, and this could include blood cells, sperm cells, tissue cells, or like muscle cells, skin cells, and the DNA found within these cells is identical throughout your body.
How do you examine items to determine whether DNA is present in an item?
It depends on the item. We may first conduct serology, which is body fluid identification on that item to try to find areas with potential cells. Body fluids contain many, many cells. We may also just swab or cut an item of evidence to try to collect possible skin cells or any other cells that may be present. So we typically do a swabbing or a cutting from an item of evidence and then do the rest of the DNA extraction procedure.
And when you are swabbing and cutting areas for DNA analysis, does that involve some type of examination with the naked eye to identify locations that appeared to be, I'm going to say different, but I'm sure you can describe it a little bit better than what I'm doing with my question?
Yes, again, it depends on the item of evidence. So our biologists would be instructed to, depending on the item, either look for staining that might be present. So for instance, if we are testing an item for blood, the biologist would first look for any red-brown staining that might be present on that item and then conduct the swabbing or cutting from the item if there is red-brown staining being present. If we are trying to get skin cells, you don't really, you can't see those. Mm-hmm. So you would potentially swab textured areas or areas that come in direct contact with an individual's skin. Or for like a water bottle, you would swab the mouth of the water bottle because that's how a water bottle would typically be used.
Okay. Now, then what steps do you take to process DNA
plan. And an exam plan is just a list of what I would like tested in the case. I would then direct my team of biologists to perform that testing. For DNA testing, the first step is the collection. That's where you're swabbing or cutting from an item of evidence to try to capture those cells that contain DNA. Those cuttings or swabbings are then put into a tube, a sterile tube, that chemicals and heat are added to that item to break open those cells, releasing the DNA. This also purifies the DNA by removing all the other cellular components, such as proteins or lipids, for instance. Once the DNA is purified, we quantify the amount of DNA that we were able to obtain. This just tells us roughly how much DNA we were able to obtain from the sample. Next, we go through an amplification process. And this is where just the regions of DNA that differ among individuals, or what we are specifically looking at, go through a copying process. Over 99% of our DNA is the same. There is only 1% that differs among individuals. So we focus on a small portion of that and make millions upon millions of copies of those differences. Lastly, the DNA is run through an instrument that separates the DNA out by size. And this, in essence, generates what we call a DNA profile, which is going to be a snapshot of what an individual's DNA is at the locations that we test. And we do this for both evidence and known samples.
All right. Now, how would you compare DNA found on an item of evidence to the known DNA of an individual?
So we would first do that same process on both an evidence item and a known sample to generate DNA profiles. The first thing I would do is look at the item of evidence to interpret the results. And that's before looking at the known sample. I would first determine, is that DNA made up of male DNA, female DNA, or a mixture of both? I would then look to see if the DNA originated from one individual or multiple individuals. If it is multiple individuals, that would be called a mixture. Then, after that is done, I will compare the known sample to that evidence profile to see if the results are the same or if they are different. If they are different, then I state that that individual could be excluded as a contributor, meaning their DNA was not detected on that item. If the DNA from the item of evidence is the same as the DNA from a known individual, I state that that individual is included or cannot be excluded as a possible contributor. And then I would calculate something called a likelihood ratio, which just provides a statistic that compares the probability of observing the DNA evidence under two alternate explanations.
Okay. Now, what is it about the DNA strand where you can determine whether it belongs to a male versus a female?
As part of our testing process, we have 3 locations on the DNA that are sex determining regions. So for instance, males have a Y chromosome, whereas females do not. And so some of these sex typing locations are found on the Y chromosome. So you would expect to see DNA results at those locations if the sample is from a male. If the sample is from a female, you would not expect to see those results.
Okay. Now, you had indicated that there can be situations where there are multiple individuals' DNA on an item of evidence. In that situation, are there limitations to your ability to be able to identify who the DNA belongs to relative to all of those contributors?
It's possible at the FBI laboratory, we interpret mixtures up to 4 individuals. So if the sample has 5 or more individuals, we no longer do comparisons for those. However, if the DNA is 4 or less, I can still do comparisons and still reach the same conclusions, an inclusion or an exclusion.
Okay. Now, going back to the issue of quantification, do you individuals' DNA to make a positive identification?
So for the quantification step, we do need to have enough DNA present to generate a DNA profile. However, at the FBI laboratory, we do not require a certain number of locations to be detected in order to do comparisons. We will do comparisons no matter what results we get.
I'd like to go back to an earlier comment that you had made. When you were talking about your examination plan, you indicated that you are going to be making decisions about what items to select for DNA testing. Can you explain what you mean by that and what would make certain items of evidence suitable for testing, whereas other items of evidence not suitable for testing?
Sure. So it will depend on the case. Based off the case scenario, some items may be probative to find DNA from an individual. Other items may not be informative. So for instance, if we know that an individual was in a specific location, we don't necessarily need to do DNA testing to try to place them in that location. We also would start our testing on the most intimate items first, depending on the case scenario. So we would do the items most closely associated.
places where an individual is known to be located. In the course of an investigation, if law enforcement, for example, was trying to identify the location of a child that had come up missing, through the course of that investigation, if there had been statements collected that would place a child in specific locations, then are you going to be interested in processing items of evidence from that to establish that child's presence at a specific location?
No, not necessarily. If we know that the child was alleged to have been in that location, there's no question on that, then I would not need to do DNA testing in those locations.
Are you familiar with an investigation that was initiated by the Davenport Police Department on July 10th of 2020 involving a child by the name of Breasia Terrell who was missing and a subject of interest identified as Henry Dinkins?
Yes, I am.
How are you familiar with this case?
I was assigned to this case as the DNA examiner.
Okay. What field agents were you working with there at the FBI laboratory?
Special Agent Cameron Smith, as well as Special Agent James McMillan directly. Those are who I had the most contact with.
All right, Special Agent Smith has been here in court and has testified. There was a topic of conversation that I would like to speak with you about. Through the course of the investigation, there were a number of items of evidence that were collected. Decisions were made about specific items to be submitted to the laboratory for testing, whether it be DNA, latent prints, or even trace evidence. Special Agent Smith indicated that they received guidance, field agents received guidance from individuals at the laboratory. Can you explain that process so that we understand how that plays into what items are selected to go to the laboratory?
Sure. So again, depending on the case, especially if there's a short deadline, in this case, it was submitted to our laboratory as an expedite. And when you have a lot of items of evidence, you want to send the most probative or most informative items to the laboratory first to initiate the testing. Especially because at the laboratory, we are not part of the investigation. We don't know the case circumstances. So therefore, we just want to inform them first, and we could always receive additional items later.
Given the variables of this investigation, were we working with a number of different locations?
Yes, we were.
Would that have involved a maroon Chevy Impala?
I do not know the color, but I did have listing a Chevy Impala, yes.
How about the address of 2744 East 53rd Street, apartment number 8?
Yes, that was another location.
An address of 743 Smith Road where a motorhome was parked?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. DNA that was collected from a subject identified as Henry Dinkins?
Yes, that is correct.
And then also a plastic bag that was known to contain clothing of Breasia Terrell and her younger brother?
We did have a bag of clothing, that is correct. Yes, we did.
Whose known DNA were you working with?
So I had received a known DNA sample from Mr. Henry Dinkins. I received a known DNA sample from Miss Andrea Culberson. And then I received an alternate known originally from Miss Terrell, which was a toothbrush. Later, it was determined that the DNA profile obtained from that toothbrush did not, in fact, contain Miss Terrell's DNA. So therefore, I used a known DNA profile that was provided to me from a different agency, LabCorp.
Okay. Does LabCorp do paternity
Your
testing?
email said
Yes.
11
Okay.
o'clock,
And then, so have
ma'am.
there been
Your
paternity
timer
testing
say
relative
you've
to
been
the
live
child of Breasia
33
Terrell?
minutes.
From my
I don't
Why
know.
you ain't tell me you were getting started early, ma'am?
I don't never put a time on my email. You need to recheck that.
No, I'm saying when you knew you were gonna go live. I ain't know you was live when you sent the email. Your
Boo-hoo, Trey,
notification said 11.
boo-hoo, Trey, boo-hoo.
And then
I don't,
even at, no, this was crazy. Even at 10:59, I hit set notification for your live. I ain't getting nothing. Then I just had to click on it and say it's Truth Live. It said 33 minutes ago. I said, look at that. Because I
Trey,
was
get
up when
ready.
you sent the email, but I thought I had 30 minutes. Because you sent it 30 minutes early, like almost an hour early.
That's a lie. I don't email y'all till I actually go live. You need to stop lying. Just know that you're
Hold on, let me
lying.
check. Let me check the time.
I'm gonna need you to do that. I know, right? Ask questions. He coming in here all loud and he late and wrong. Hey, fun.
I'm late because you didn't tell me what time.
I don't never tell you what time. I just sent a damn email.
YouTube said 11, ma'am. It was set for 11 a.m.
It might have been set for 11. Did I go live at 10:30?
Yes.
Oh, did I go live early, y'all?
Yes, you did. And you sent the
10.
link at 10:32, and your live was scheduled for 11.
And you did go at like 10:35.
Oh, wow. Well,
I know it's amazing that you were early, but I
it
mean,
is amazing because I don't ever.
The truth it shocked the hell out of me. I feel bad because I'm like, she been for 30 minutes. I felt like I did something wrong.
Shut up, Trey. How you feeling?
Hey girl,
What's
you
going
know what? It amazes me. People complain when you're late, but then they complain when you're early.
I know, right?
Hey, Black Betty Boop, you angry as usual, I see.
and you complain more than anybody.
Go ahead, carry on with the commentary, please,
I
man.
will, because Trey just, he got to come in with a bang. It
Right,
just is what it is.
right.
It's ridiculous.
That's okay. I ain't.
Understanding this because I had received a report from LabCorp that contained paternity test results for Ms. Terrell, and it had her DNA profile in that report. And that is what I ended up using for my comparisons.
And let's just speak to this issue so that this is addressed on the record. With the toothbrush, was that an early submission to the laboratory?
Yes, when we received our first submission, the toothbrush was part of that submission. It was actually given item 1. That was told to me that it was a known or alternate known sample from Miss Breasia Terrell. So that was what I used originally.
Okay. When you were able to get records from LabCorp that had Breasia Terrell's known DNA, what did you discover?
I discovered that the DNA profile between the toothbrush and Miss Terrell was different and that the profile was more consistent with her mother.
All right. Let's speak to this particular topic. Going back to DNA, you had indicated that a child gets half of their DNA from the mother and half of the DNA from the father.
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Now, you describe the DNA
between a child and a mother.
and is that the mitochondrial DNA that we're talking about?
No, this would still be the nuclear DNA, which is the type of DNA testing I conducted. Mitochondrial DNA is passed down intact from mother to child, so those would actually be identical. I am not a mitochondrial DNA examiner. I strictly do nuclear DNA.
All right. And that's where you're just identifying the individual specific DNA. Is that correct?
That is correct, because for nuclear DNA is unique with the exception of identical twins.
Okay. Once you made that discovery, then did you go through and redo your analysis?
I did, yes.
And then the report that we're going to be talking to today, would that have been a second report you authored once you'd received the known DNA of Breasia Terrell through documentation of LabCorp?
Yes, my second report superseded my first report, so my first report no longer is applicable. The second report is the official report that outlines all of the comparisons between Ms. Terrell and the items tested.
And then I want to speak to yet another issue. Did you author a third report as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, as to that third report, Andrea Culberson and her DNA, did it come in later on in the
Sample, the true known I had was from Mr. Dinkins. Later on, I received a sample from Ms. Culberson.
All right. Your Honor, may the record reflect that I'm showing counsel what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 52. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 52. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 52 for purposes of identification?
I do. I'm sorry, it's a copy of my report.
All right. And then what date did you author this report?
August 13, 2020.
What is the official title that appears at the top of this document?
FBI laboratory, well, it's the laboratory report.
All right. And then does it identify who the field agent was that was responsible for submissions that came to you?
It does. It has Mr. Cameron, or excuse me, Special Agent Cameron Smith.
All right. And then if you could give us the case ID number for the FBI.
The FBI case ID is OM-3290265.
And then the lab number that would have been associated with this report to include which report this was.
Yes, the laboratory report for this specific report is 2020-01448-19.
Does it list a name in the area of subject for subjects of interest?
It does. It lists Henry Earl Dinkins.
And then is the child's name Breasia Terrell on this document as well?
Yes, it is.
And does it identify the specific discipline that this report applies to?
It does. It lists DNA.
In addition, does this also include descriptions for every item of evidence that was submitted to the laboratory for you to analyze?
It is not every item that was submitted. It was every item that I tested in our unit specifically.
And thank you for that clarification. And then finally, do you set forth your results in this document?
Yes, I do.
And then does your name appear on this document as the author of this report?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to introduce State's Exhibit 52.
No objection. Exhibit 52 will be admitted.
Your Honor, may I publish State's Exhibit 52?
You may.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give you a copy, and then I'm going to utilize Elmo to work with this exhibit so that we can see what's going on here. Okay. All right. Now, to start off on your report, what I'd like for you to do, we're just going to go through a list of items submitted. I will tell you for purposes of perspective, we've already provided an education for our written record as to how numbering of items work in that left column. All right. As we understand it, the item numbers in the left column were established by who?
By the FBI laboratory.
And then, of course, we've had discussions relative to each descriptor for an item of evidence. The area where there is quotes and we see numbers, are we correct in understanding that like 1B61 would be the FBI number?
Yes, that would be provided from the field.
Okay. And then if we go to the end of that very first entry, item number 26 would be the item that the Davenport Police Department assigned to that evidence when it was seized.
That is correct.
Okay. When items are seized by Davenport and turned over to the FBI, does the FBI then give it its own item number?
Yes.
So essentially, we're working with 3 item numbers.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, walk us through this then. Let's start with the very first item. And actually, what I want you to do, let's go ahead and let's just start reading through those. And as you go through those, I'm going to have some questions along the way.
Sure. And normally, just to clarify, we do list the item numbers in order, but because I had that superseding report, the first 4 numbers were new items that had not been previously listed in my first report. That's why they're listed first.
And Ms. Smith, something that you did in your laboratory report that was very helpful, you've got these descriptions by item numbers, but then as you go through and talk about the results of your analysis, do you give us a general heading of where these items of evidence came from so that we know where to associate that item as far as locations are concerned?
I did, yes.
Okay, all right, go ahead and take us through this set of item
Sure.
numbers.
So item 53 was a shirt from 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. Item 54 was a shirt listed as coming from Henry Dinkins.
I'd like to speak to that topic. Does that mean that that was an item that was taken directly off of Henry Dinkins?
That's what I would assume, but again, I don't know because I didn't do the collections myself. That was just how it was described to us when we received it at the laboratory.
Go ahead.
We received item 55, which was a shirt from a plastic bag. Item 56, which was a shirt from bed from 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8.
And then as to item 55, as we go through your findings, are you going to give us more information about the plastic bag and that shirt so we know who it is associated with?
I will give results from the testing on that shirt, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The next is item 1, which was the toothbrush submitted as a known sample from Ms. Terrell. Item 2 was penile swabs from Mr. Henry Dinkins. Item 3 was a left hand swab from Mr. Dinkins. Item 4 was a right hand swab for Mr. Dinkins. Item 5 and 6 were the left and right hand fingernail swabs from Mr. Dinkins. Do we continue to the next page?
Yes, and then let me go ahead and turn the next page.
Item 7 was the buccal sample from Mr. Henry Dinkins, and a buccal sample is a cheek swab. This is the known sample from Mr. Dinkins. Item 8 was a swab from the left lip. Item 9 was a swab from the back seat of the 2007 Impala. Item 10 was a swab from the crevice on the back middle, the left shoulder area on the front passenger seat of the Impala. Item 12 was a piece of fabric from middle rear seat of 2007 Impala. Item 13 was a piece of cushion from middle rear seat of 2007 Chevrolet Impala. Item 14 was a rag from driver's console of the Impala. Item 15 was a shirt from the trunk of the 2007 Chevrolet Impala. Item 16 were shorts from the trunk of a 2007 Chevrolet Impala. Items 17 and 18 were 2 sandals from the trunk of a 2007 Chevrolet Impala. Item 19 was a hatchet from the trunk of a 2007 Chevrolet Impala. Item 19-1 was the blade cover from that hatchet from the trunk of the 2007 Chevrolet Impala. Item 21 were 2 swabs from bathtub drain at 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. Item 22 were 2 swabs from molding along bottom of bathtub at 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. Item 23 were 2 swabs from bathroom sink countertop at 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. Item 24 were 2 swabs from toilet seat at 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. Item 25 were 2 swabs from top rim of toilet bowl at 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. Excuse me. Item 26 were 2 swabs from the top of the toilet tank at 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. Item 27 was a piece of mattress from 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8.
Okay, going to our third page.
Item 28, item 29, item 30, item 31, item 32, item 33, and item 34 were all pieces of mattress from 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. Item 35 was a shirt from plastic bag. Item 36 was bra from plastic bag. Item 37 was underwear from plastic bag. Item 38 was washcloth from plastic bag.
And if I could, item 35 through 38, was that the plastic bag that contained the clothing of the children that law enforcement had collected?
That's what I was informed.
Okay, go ahead.
Item 39 was swab from right side of kitchen sink in room C of mobile home, license plate number ENJ181. Item 40, swab from left side of kitchen sink in room C of mobile home, license plate number ENJ181. Item 41 was swab from bathroom sink handle in room E of mobile home. Item 42, swab from bathroom sink in room E of mobile home. Item 43, swab from foam padding in room D of mobile home. Item 44, swab from foam padding in room D of mobile home. Item 47, machete from on top of microwave at 743 Schmidt Road. Item 48, machete. Item 48-1, sheath with item 48 machete.
And then finally, on page 4 of your report, our final items that were submitted for submission.
Item 49 was a broom from kitchen at 2744 East 53rd Street, number 8. And lastly, item 52, bottle with cap and liquid contents from 2744 East 53rd Street.
Now, I want to make sure that I am clear. Is this the corrected report that you would have prepared?
Yes, this is the superseding report that replaced the original report.
Thank you. And I just wanted to make sure that that was correct. From there, then, let's just walk through then your analysis of items of evidence. Give me a moment. All right. In this report, do you set forth the DNA for Breasia Terrell?
I do, yes.
Okay. All right. Take us through your findings. How many different findings did you make in this?
Known samples were tested for either blood, semen, and DNA.
Okay. Blood, semen, or some type of bodily fluid present, which would then result in a DNA analysis.
So for this particular case, because again, I had information that we knew that Ms. Terrell had been in some of these locations, if the items tested negative for blood and or semen, they were not carried on for DNA testing in most instances. Only the items that tested positive for blood and or semen typically went on for DNA testing, with the exception of a few items in this particular case.
Now, as far as Mr. Dinkins' known DNA, that came from what sources?
That was from a cheek swab, a buccal sample.
All right. And then from there, let me just walk through this. The shirt that Mr. Dinkins had been wearing, which is your item 54, was that examined?
Yes, it was.
What was noted during the examination of that item?
On the item 54 shirt that was from Mr. Dinkins, blood was indicated on that item. An indication of blood means that it tested positive for our presumptive test. However, blood was not confirmed. That stain then was sent on for DNA testing, and male DNA was obtained from that item, and no DNA results, unlike Mr. Dinkins, were obtained.
Okay. The language that you had used, no DNA typing results, unlike Mr. Dinkins, were obtained. Very simply then, was that consistent with his DNA?
Yes, typically if we take an item directly from an individual, we expect to find their DNA present on that item. So instead of doing statistics whenever we have a match, we would typically say no DNA unlike that individual if their DNA is expected to be present.
Okay, and then that helps us understand that particular finding. All right, now let's go to the Chevy Impala. As far as the Chevy Impala, did you do DNA testing on the various swabs that were cut from the front passenger seat and even from the back seat of that vehicle?
For the swabs from the different areas of the Chevrolet Impala, blood testing was conducted on those swabs. However, blood was not detected. From the cuttings of some of the fabric areas from the Chevy Impala, those were tested for both blood and semen. However, blood and semen were not detected.
Since blood and semen were not detected, was there any DNA analysis done on those items?
No, because again, the information I had was that we knew that Ms. Terrell had been in that vehicle at some point in time, so finding her DNA in the vehicle would not be informative.
Okay, I'd like to speak to the issue of bleach. Bleach is a component of this investigation. When you were doing your DNA analysis there at the laboratory, do you do any type of analysis to determine whether or not bleach was a product that was used in an area to destroy DNA?
Not as part of my testing, no.
Okay, can you speak to the topic of bleach and how that product would impact the presence of DNA?
So bleach itself is used to destroy or degrade DNA. So we use it, for instance, in our laboratory to clean items. So for instance, when a biologist is doing their testing on an item of evidence, before they pull out that item, they would clean their work surface, they would clean their instruments with bleach to remove any DNA that might be present. And then when they are done with testing, they would repeat that process to, again, remove DNA.
Okay, now I'd like to go to an item that was found in the trunk of the Chevy Impala that was of interest. Item number 16, can you speak to that item?
Item 16 were a pair of shorts from the trunk of the Impala.
Okay. Was it examined for the presence of blood or semen?
Yes, it was. Blood was indicated on this pair of shorts from the trunk. However, semen was not detected.
Okay. With there being blood detected, was there any type of comparison to the known DNA of Breasia Terrell or Henry Dinkins?
Yes, there was.
Explain.
So 2 collections were done from this pair of shorts. The first was a swabbing of the stain from the inside back crotch area of the shorts. For that stain, female DNA was obtained from a single individual. When I compared Mr. Dinkins and Ms. Terrell, they were excluded. So the DNA profile from those 2 individuals was not the same as the DNA from that stain. So therefore, they were excluded.
Okay, let's speak to a subsequent report that you would have generated. Now, was it known that Andrea Culberson was the girlfriend of Mr. Dinkins?
Yes.
Was her DNA submitted so that you could compare?
You know what? At this point, I'm like the defense attorney. Now, I know that it's a reason why she's doing this, you know, questioning these FBI agents as far as the DNA and things like that. Nothing's coming back as a match, though. It's weird. I don't know. I think that bleach played a huge part in covering up some shit, but yeah. Let's
her DNA to either, well, the blood on the shorts or even the swabs taken from the waistband of the shorts?
Yes.
And what was the result of that?
Ms. Culberson was excluded from both of those stains.
Okay. And so then is the DNA, has it ever been identified as to who it belongs to?
No.
Okay. And was that a female or a male's DNA?
From the swab of the stain from the inside back crotch area, that was a single female individual, was obtained from that. From the wearer swabbing or the swabbing of the inside waistband of the shorts, I did get DNA from a female, but it was interpreted as originating from 3 individuals.
Okay. And then so with it originating from 3 individuals, could you conclusively say that it was not Breasia Terrell or Andrea Culberson?
I could exclude Ms. Culberson. I could not visually exclude Ms. Terrell from that item just because it was a mixture. So what I did is I calculated a likelihood ratio, which is, again, that statistic that provides either support for inclusion or support for exclusion. And in this case, I got support or limited support for exclusion. So it meant the DNA results from that swabbing of the inside waistband of the shorts are 2 times more likely if the DNA originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individual are contributors than if Ms. Terrell and 2 unknown, unrelated individuals are contributors.
Okay. Now, something of interest would have been swabs taken at 2744 East 53rd Street, particularly in the bathroom around drains, and then also from a toilet seat. I would note that there was a small dot on a toilet seat, and we've had photographs introduced that looked like it was just a little darker stain, maybe consistent with blood. Can you tell us what determinations that you made from all of the items that came from 2744 East 53rd Street that were subject to your analysis?
Yes, so again, for those items, they were subjected to either serology, so blood and or semen exams. If they were negative, DNA testing was not conducted because, again, my understanding was that Ms. Terrell had been at that location. If they were positive, then I sent them on for DNA testing.
Okay, identify each location that's in play here.
So for the items from 2744 East 53rd Street, from the first round of testing, I have swabs from bathtub drain, swabs from molding along bottom of bathtub, swabs from bathroom sink countertop, swabs from toilet seat, swabs from top rim of toilet bowl, swabs from top of toilet tank, broom from kitchen, bottle with cap and liquid contents, shirt and shirt from bed, and blood was not detected on any of those items.
All right. Now, were there multiple cuttings from a mattress at that address that were sent in for analysis?
Yes, multiple cuttings were taken, and all of those cuttings were tested for blood, but blood was not detected on any of those pieces of mattress. Some of them, semen was identified.
Were you able to attribute any of those semen stains to Mr. Dinkins?
Yes, I was, and those final results would have been subject of my third report.
Certainly. And then I'll just ask you this. Were you able to attribute any stains from the mattress to Andrea Culberson?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Now let's just speak to that. With there being either semen attributable to Mr. Dinkins or even bodily fluids attributable to Ms. Culberson, is that what you would expect if they live in this apartment and they are involved in a relationship with one another?
Yes, I would.
Okay. All right. So nothing there that really stood out and was concerning. Would that be fair to say?
That is correct.
All right. As far as just any of the stains on the mattress, was Briasia excluded as a contributor to any of those stains on the mattress?
Yes, she was excluded from some of those stains. That's correct.
All right. And then for Mr. Dinkins, just go ahead and give us a likelihood ratio, even though we would expect to find his semen, in that bedroom on the mattress.
So I did calculate ratios for Mr. Dinkins before I had received the known from Ms. Culberson, but I actually did end up changing my results to no DNA unlike or the DNA unlike Mr. Dinkins because I put him as an assumed contributor. So I can give those first results if you'd like, but they did change subject to the second report.
Okay, and how did they change then? In what respect?
Your Honor, may I refer to my second report?
You may.
So for the item 27 piece of mattress, for that, male DNA was detected, and it was interpreted originating from two individuals. In both of the reports, Ms. Terrell, Mr. Dinkins, and Ms. Culberson were excluded as contributors for that particular cutting. For item 29 piece of mattress, originally I did not have Ms. Culberson's sample, so I just compared any DNA that I had to Mr. Dinkins and Ms. Terrell. However, when I received the known from Ms. Culberson for item 29, I could see that the majority of the DNA on that matched to Ms. Culberson and Mr. Dinkins, which would be what I would expect if you have two adults in a relationship where they both are potentially living. So therefore, my final results for that item were that male and female DNA was obtained from that cutting of semen stain, which was our item 29-1. Item 29-1 was interpreted as originating from four individuals, two of whom are Ms. Culberson and Mr. Dinkins. The DNA results from that item are equally likely if Ms. Culberson, Dinkins, and Terrell and an unknown unrelated person are contributors than if Culberson, Dinkins, and two unknown unrelated people are contributors. This is an inconclusive result, meaning it's uninformative result, meaning there's equal support for inclusion or exclusion.
Certainly. Let me ask you this, just given the findings there relative to the swabs in the bathroom and also the findings relative to the cuttings from the mattress, would those findings be consistent with the statements taken from witnesses that there had been no untoward activity at the apartment where the children were staying before Briasia came up missing?
That is one explanation. As part of DNA testing, I can't state why or when DNA is left behind or why DNA is not found. But if nothing occurred at a location, I would not expect the necessarily blood or semen at that location.
Okay. Now let's go to items taken from the motorhome at 743 Schmidt Road. Articulate what those items are for our record.
The items from 743 Schmidt Road were a swab from right side of kitchen sink, swab from left side of kitchen sink, swab from bathroom sink handle, swab from bathroom sink, swab from foam padding, swab from foam padding, and machete from top of microwave.
Okay. Were all of those items examined for the presence of blood?
Yes, they were.
Was blood detected?
No, it was not.
Since blood was detected, was there any DNA analysis that was done?
Because blood was not detected on these items, I did not carry them on for DNA testing.
Okay. Now let's go to the plastic bag that contained the clothing for the children. What did those items consist of?
I had a shirt, a bra, a washcloth, another shirt, and a pair of underwear as part of this first report.
Okay, let me go to, all right, gotcha. All right, and then was there any blood detected on any of those articles?
Blood and semen were tested for all of those items, and blood and semen were not detected.
All right, and then again, going back to my earlier question, if these items had been, I guess, gathered from the address of 2744 East 53rd Street, apartment number 8, and there was no statements provided by people that anything untoward had happened at that location, are these findings consistent with those statements?
Again, I can't speak to why they may or may not have body fluids on them. However, that is one explanation. If nothing occurred, then I would not expect to find blood or semen potentially on those items.
As for the final item that you noted in your report under miscellaneous, give us a descriptor for that.
For the miscellaneous items, I listed them because I at the time of my testing, I was not aware of where those items were collected from. It was a machete and a sheath for a machete.
Have you since learned where that machete and the sheath for it was collected? We've got the one from the RV.
I believe it also came from the RV, but I don't actually know for certain.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and fill that gap in through testimony of one of our detectives. At any rate, describe your finding relative to item 48 and 48-1.
Blood was not detected on those items.
All right, and so since blood was not detected, was there any DNA analysis?
No.
All right. Now, Your Honor, may the record reflect that I'm showing counsel what's been marked as State's Exhibit 53. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 53 for purposes, hold on. For purposes of identification, I can just go ahead and take this copy, if you will. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 53?
Yes, this is my third report that I generated.
All right. And how does this report differ from the earlier report?
This report is just receiving additional items. So in this specific report is where I received the known sample from Miss Andrea Culberson, as well as a shirt from the trunk in a 2012 Chevrolet Camaro. So this report just outlines the results from that shirt, as well as any comparisons between Miss Culberson and that previously tested items.
All right. Does it bear the same caption on this document of being a laboratory report?
It does, yes.
Does it have the same case ID number?
It does.
The same lab number?
Yes, with the exception of instead of -19, it's -24.
And then who's identified as our field agent responsible for this submission?
Special Agent Cameron Smith.
All right. And then what date was this report generated?
September 18th, 2020.
And whose name appears on this document as the DNA caseworker or analyst who authored this report?
No objection. Exhibit 53 will be admitted.
And then, Your Honor, may I publish this particular exhibit?
You may.
Okay. All right.
Hey,
When this
can
report
I say
is-
something real quick?
Give it.
Okay, so what everyone's got to understand is they took his car the same day that she was reported missing, which is very important because that car was not being driven around. No one had entered that car but the people taking the samples. So even though it was done, months later or weeks later, no one had been in that car. That car had been sealed up.
Mm-hmm.
So by them seizing the cars immediately, the day of her disappearance, there's no possible way that anyone could have cross-contaminated it. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
us the item numbers for the latest submissions and the descriptors for those two item numbers?
Item 74, which was the buccal sample from Miss Andrea Culberson. And again, this is the known cheek swab from her. The next item is item 79, which was a shirt from trunk in 2012 Chevrolet Camaro.
Okay, have we already discussed the findings relative to Andrea Culberson when they were compared to the cuttings taken from the mattress at 2744 East 53rd Street?
From some of those cuttings, yes.
Okay, all right. Now, I think really what I want to focus on then for purposes of this report is the shirt from the trunk in the 2012 Chevy Camaro. There was previously a photograph introduced of a white t-shirt that had some staining on it, creating the impression that it might potentially be blood. Tell us about the analysis of that shirt.
Blood was not detected on this item.
And then so with blood not being detected, was any DNA analysis done?
No.
All right. What else do we need to talk about then relative to the cuttings from the mattresses?
So the only, I did not discuss item 34 piece of mattress previously. For item 34, 2 cuttings were taken. From one of the cuttings, male DNA was obtained. This is 34-1. This is the first cutting. There was DNA, unlike Ms. Culberson and Mr. Dinkins, obtained from this item from a single individual, but it was very limited for comparison purposes. However, Ms. Terrell could not be compared because LabCorp that provided the FBI laboratory, so there's not 100% overlap. So I was not able to compare her to that stain. And the second cutting, male DNA was obtained, and no DNA, unlike Ms. Culberson and Mr. Dinkins, were obtained.
Okay. Did that conclude your involvement in this particular case?
It did. The only exception that we have not discussed was the underwear from the plastic bag. DNA testing was conducted, although it tested negative for blood and semen.
All right. And that would have been the plastic bag that contained the children's clothing, correct?
That was my knowledge with the testing. That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Let me go ahead and grab that exhibit from you. That's the original. I have no further questions.
We'll take our afternoon break at this time. We'll be in adjournment for 15 minutes.
Thank everybody for being here. I appreciate y'all. Y'all make sure y'all hit that like button for your girl. All right, so I fast forwarded through the break and she's back. All these FBI women look alike. They look stressed.
She is. You see how she crushed that water bottle?
They just look, I mean, like her and they look, oh, by my God. Oh, I thought I fast forwarded. Hold on. Come on, girl. Come on, girl. All right, she's up. Okay, there we go.
Are you good, Kim? Okay. Mr. Freeze, thank you. Is it Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to clarify a few things. First of all, with respect to DNA, DNA is everywhere. We're sloughing DNA off continuously, aren't we, as human beings?
We do leave our DNA behind on items when we're touching items or when we potentially sneeze on items. Yes, we do leave DNA behind.
So we leave DNA off through skin cells, correct?
It is possible. It's not guaranteed, but you can, yes.
Saliva is another way we can leave DNA.
That is correct.
Sweat,
Sweat itself contains skin cells. So yes, skin cells again.
tears, right?
It's possible.
Sneezing, correct?
Correct.
Any other way we can leave off DNA?
Any body fluid would typically have DNA present just either due to, again, blood cells, sperm cells, skin cells, and again, by touching items, you could leave behind skin cells as well.
For instance, if someone come by here right now and just...
I wouldn't know without testing it, but it is possible, depending on how often it's cleaned, yes.
Okay, thanks. You were directed to look for was blood and
The the information I had, I determined to do blood and or semen testing. And if positive, continue with DNA. If negative, I would stop.
Okay. But it could have been possible to search for other substances like sweat, tears, epithelials, things like that, right?
We do not have serology tests that will identify those fluids. We could have done DNA testing. However, I would not be able to state where the DNA came from, what type of body fluid it was, because we do not have serology exams for those.
For instance, the Impala, you could have tested for DNA inside the Impala had you chosen to.
Yes, I could have. That's correct.
And the decision to not test for DNA from the items that came from inside the Impala, first of all, the passenger compartment, was based upon the assumption that Ms. Terrell was inside the passenger compartment of the Impala.
The information I was given was that there was no question whether she had been in that vehicle. So finding her DNA in that vehicle would not have been informative. So that was what my determination was based off of.
Who gave you that information?
I believe it was either Special Agent McMillan or Special Agent Smith.
And the trunk of the DNA of the Impala, were items submitted there that could have been tested for DNA?
Again, they could have been, but again, I wouldn't be able to state how or when the DNA got there, whether it was through direct contact with the trunk or if an item was just placed into a trunk. So therefore, again, I determined not to do DNA testing if they were negative.
Very well. Now, if you had been told that Ms. Terrell had never been in that Impala, would that have changed your analysis?
If I was told she had never been in the Impala, I might have done DNA testing on some of the areas, not all of the items again, because items that can be placed into a vehicle, again, it doesn't necessarily mean the individual was in that vehicle. However, I might have sent some of the swabs on for testing.
Sure. Were any swabs or cuttings taken of the liner or the carpet of the trunk of the Impala?
I don't know if any were taken. I did not receive any.
Okay. If you had received some and were asked to test them, you would have done that, right?
Yes, I would have tested them again for blood. And if positive, I would have sent them on for DNA.
And if they were sent to you for testing, that would have been included in your two reports, State's Exhibits 52 and 53, right?
Yes, if they had been tested, I would have outlined them in a report.
I want to talk a little bit about your report, ma'am. Item number 1 was the toothbrush that was submitted for testing. Do you know where that item came from?
I do not.
Okay. But you asked for a known specimen of Ms. Terrell's DNA to be submitted, correct?
Yes, I did.
And it was important that that item be solely Ms. Terrell's, correct?
Yes, typically, whenever we do comparisons, we need known samples. Unfortunately, with individuals that are missing or not available, oftentimes if they're, like, for instance, deceased, we have to get other samples, like alternate knowns or items that we believe they have come in contact with. But our preference would be true knowns, like blood or cheek directly from an individual.
And that's where a toothbrush would come in, cheek DNA, for example, right?
No, a toothbrush would still be considered a question item unless that was what somebody directly gives the person to swab their mouth under observation and turns it in. Because if you just find a toothbrush, you might not necessarily know whose DNA is present on that. A known sample would typically be either blood drawn from a hospital or a nurse and or a cheek swab collected directly from a person.
But as I understand item number 1, the toothbrush, when it was tested, it was solely the DNA of Ms. Terrell's mother, right?
It was, yes. When I compared the DNA profile from the toothbrush to the paternity report, I saw that it was consistent with Ms. Terrell's mother.
So Ms. Terrell's DNA was nowhere on this toothbrush, correct?
From the area that was tested, I did not see her DNA present.
But the DNA of her mother was, right?
Yes, from what I understand based off of the LabCorp report.
Items 2, 4, 5, and 6 all came from Henry Dinkins. So the penile swab, hand swabs, and fingernail swabs, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Were those tested for female DNA?
They were tested for DNA.
So there was no female DNA found on Henry Dinkins' penis, right?
No DNA, unlike Mr. Dinkins, was found on the penile swabs. That's correct.
So I can safely state that there was no female DNA on Mr. Dinkins' penis, right?
None that was detected. That is correct.
No female DNA under Mr. Dinkins' fingernails, right?
There was no DNA, unlike Mr. Dinkins, obtained. For the fingernails specifically, no sex typing results were obtained, so no male or female DNA was detected. However, for the actual type of DNA testing we conduct, there was no DNA, unlike Mr. Dinkins, from either of those items.
And that statement allows me to assume there was no female DNA.
That is correct. There's no female or male DNA detected.
Yeah.
And
You were going to say something?
fingernail swabs are taken in your experience. Why?
So y'all didn't hear my rant. I was on mute.
Yeah,
Damn it.
you're definitely on mute. You want to try it again?
Yes, damn it, man. How many ways he gonna ask a question?
Again, he's trying to trip this woman up.
God.
And then when he trips her up, he goes, "Well, you just said there was no DNA of a female under his fingernails." Well, he could have cleaned his fingernails. He could have put his hands in bleach.
Come on. I'm telling you, the bleach. It's the bleach for me. It's the bleach. It's the bleach.
Well, you know,
He
get
knew
the
what the hell he was doing. This is a sex film.
Did they have the?
Exactly what he was doing.
Couldn't they have gotten the pregnant woman to go over there and smell his hands?
You know what? I just, you know, I know this stuff is like really relevant, but it's just this man right here. You think you're gonna ask that question? I mean, how many ways can she say there was no female DNA present? How many ways?
Well, he's got to specify, and he's got to be specific that there was no female DNA found on Mr. Dinkins. Because remember, he was arrested the day of.
He was the truth, but he had 4 hours before he was arrested.
Exactly. He had more than that. He had from 3 a.m.
From 3 a.m. Right.
3
Well,
a.m.
no, I'm gonna say 7 a.m. because that's when he bought the bleach. I'm gonna say from 7 a.m. to when he was arrested, he had time to cover all that shit up. And if that old mother-faced woman up there, the girlfriend, it's her fault. Because if she had told them cops when they came in his house, in that apartment or whatever, what the deal was, he probably wouldn't have had so much time to clean up.
Because he did say one of his friends drove his car around, didn't he?
I think that was a lie, though.
What was he doing at his friend's house while his friend was driving his car around?
Exactly. And I think that's a lie because he just said that. Hold on a minute. Go ahead and talk to me.
Well, the fact that he said my friend was driving my car around. Well, he was at his friend's house while his friend was driving his car around. He wanted to make sure that his car was seen on surveillance cameras while he was at the house cleaning up, washing up.
He was lying when he was asked where his vehicle. He was at the police station and he said his friend had his car riding around. Actually, they found his car around the corner from the police station.
Yeah, not the red one, the Camaro.
It was parked at the
house.
apartment.
Yeah, but
so that was a lie. No one was riding around in the car.
Well, I'm just saying he said that, but he went to a friend's house. He could have easily took a shower there and cleaned up.
First of all, he was seen in like 2 or 3 different outfits. When the man helped him get unstuck,
it was in one outfit.
It was in what he had on a dark colored shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Then when he was spotted at the gas station or whatever, he had on another outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the police came
to the house, he was in another outfit. Yes.
So he had plenty of time to shower and clean himself up.
Well, but here's the thing also. He came from the apartment to talk to the police officer. So he could have showered then, and she didn't say anything. But they don't have any of those clothing. Like they never recovered any of the different clothing that he had on other than the clothing he was wearing at the police station. Well, yeah, they didn't find her for 9 months, but they had him immediately, meaning he never left. He was in jail the entire time and never left. And then they found her. So whatever he did that day is what he did. Going forward, he was in jail.
You know what? Let me say something to what's that? Laleezy.
Mhm.
Hey, good morning. Still morning for a minute. Good morning. Thank you for joining. Listen, listen. This is what gets me. Like, I try to stay focused and I try to listen, but I'm really, really confused. Like the testing that they see. Because let me. How can I put this? All this DNA testing and da 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 with the FBI agents and things of that nature. Now, is it safe to say that some of this testing was done before they found her remains and some was done after, right?
Well, they could, but see, they got warrants to get those tests.
See, Laleezy said I thought they picked him up. They didn't pick him up until she was found. That's not true.
No,
He
they
was
had him.
arrested.
Yeah.
No, he was locked up because he was arrested on a violation of not
Yes.
reporting his
Address.
sex offender status. Yeah.
Yes.
So he was arrested. I don't know if it was the day of,
The
next
day of
whatever.
the day he was questioned,
He was
they
arrested.
arrested him.
And he was locked up the entire time. Like when they found when they found her body, he was arrested. He was in jail. He never got out.
And the day they questioned him, they made the warrants.
Mm-hmm. So any covering up or cleaning up that he did before he went in to that police station. Because once he went in, I don't think he ever left.
He never came out. So in that 4-hour span that he leaves the apartment, he's unaccounted for.
Right. And see, the thing about it is, I think that after he absolutely believe DL when he says that that man took him back to the spot. Like, I really do believe he went back because I think he did some more covering up when he went back. Now, I'm just really, really confused. The testing that they're doing. So when this is what I'm asking the truth, if you know the answer to this. The testing that they did on like the linen and the toothbrush and the hairbrush and all of that, was that done like early on in the investigation before she was found?
Well, they keep saying, like, they give you the dates that they did some of the testing. So the warrant was for him. And then later they got a warrant for the cars because they confiscated all the cars.
Like the warrant for because they did testing as far as the girlfriend's concerned. Was that done early on as well? You know what I mean? Because they was comparing her DNA.
The house was searched the day that he was the day she went missing.
Okay, great.
So they came back, they checked the house and everything else. I think it was a couple days later that they started doing the house, but they had confiscated the RV and the 2 cars and locked them up immediately that day because they got warrants for all of the vehicles. And then they got a warrant to search the home, where he was staying with his girlfriend. Now, a lot of the other stuff, I have to check to see what date they started cutting, because again, once they get the warrant for the car, remember the pregnant lady said that she did a warrant and then she went there to witness them taking the pictures and doing the luminol and the lighting checks, and so they got a warrant to do all that for the cars. Now, I don't know when they sent it to the FBI lab. She's saying September she received all of the stuff.
That's around the time when her body was found.
No, her body was found 9 months later.
Her body was found in March.
Yeah, in March.
Okay, her body was found in March.
Yeah. So they did the testing. She's saying September. That's what she said on the stand. That her test was done in September.
Okay. See.
Well, understand, once they take the swab, once they take the swab, the Q-tips, whatever they're doing, they're sealed.
Yeah, and I know that, just because they take a sample or get some they don't immediately test it. Like, right,
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
that,
but because they don't know exactly what they want to test for,
but
and
they do
because she
collect
was,
it. They just
yeah,
collect it, kill it, and,
yeah,
and have it for
yes,
Just
because
come to the
they still don't
organization.
know what, yeah, because they don't know what they're going to ask for, so that they have
Right.
it and they do a broad uh thing of the evidence. So they're doing a broad scan of the evidence. They're trying to get everything they could think of, especially blood or semen or whatever, or bodily fluids. They're trying to figure out, and they're taking everything. And then because she's missing, and then once they determine that it's been 3-4 months, no sighting, no nothing, and they're taking his story and going, nah, it's not adding up, then they might start asking for things. Specific
Okay.
things to be tested for. But they had them all. But they knew that something was wrong. And most of this stuff we're
Oh, they
dealing
knew
with
that
now.
for real. That's why they
Oh yeah,
got that.
the day of they knew. That's why they arrested him for not registering. But they knew to get everything that day. And then remember someone mentioned, well, did he smell, well, he didn't smell like he had been sweating or anything, like nothing was going on. So, that I know it's a long period of time, but, I always go back to the girlfriend's testimony. I felt like she left little pieces out, little pieces out that could have definitely put the nail in the coffin for him. Like she was playing dumb. Like she didn't want to say, we came in and took a shower. That's a immediate red flag right there.
Oh yeah, the red flag that she ain't say what she needed to say that morning. But
yeah,
do
you remember the clothes?
In her testimony, she told all that she knew, only because pop the deal, plea deal, whatever the case may be. I think that's when she had told her truth. And I think had he taken a shower there, she would have said so.
You think so? Because a
why
lot of
she would
stuff.
have said that? But this is the thing. I get it. Like, but see, this is the thing, Fawn. She left out a lot of stuff. Like, okay, so you feel like if he had taken a shower at the place, she would have said something. But I don't think so because it's a lot she didn't say initially.
I'm talking about in the testimony. I'm not talking about.
Okay, well, I heard her testimony. Okay, great. Okay, I get you.
Yeah, not from the very beginning when the cops got there.
Okay.
We all agreed that right then and there, she should have ran her mouth like she had diarrhea of the mouth and told everything again, but she did it.
Well, I understand she was scared. I understand she was probably scared that if she had said something, he would come back and get her. That's the only likely possibility I have for her not spilling her guts.
Or she had something to do with it, but I guess they determined she didn't. So
I don't think I don't think she had something to do with it, but she just knew things were not right. But she did not question him. She did not challenge him as far as, you need to tell me where this little girl is, or where you going, what are you doing out this late with her at 3 o'clock in the morning, or whatever.
And when he comes back and she's not with him, where's the girl?
Right. What's going on? She did not question any of that. And that's why I think they threatened her to say, listen, you better tell us what you know, or your ass is going down too. Well, that's why I think that's why she spilled her guts and told what she knew right then on the stand. And I think had he taken a shower, she would have said that.
The specific question that was asked of her, how did you feel when you went to the car? And she answered, sick to my stomach.
She felt that way when she got up and the little girl was him and the little girl.
I believe so. I believe so. When she felt that way when she looked out that window, if it's true, and saw that little girl standing by the car wearing a t-shirt.
Well, you wasn't that sick because you could have called the police and did something then. So you wasn't that sick.
Exactly.
But again, was it fear that kept her from doing that?
I think it was fear. I do. I don't think she like so loved this man that she was covering up for him just to cover up for him. I do think it was fear. I do. And the reason why I said that, why would she say when the cop came to the door and asked to come in, she made sure it was okay with old boy.
Yeah, with old
and
boy.
that's her place. That's his place. That's her place. But she had to make sure that it was okay with old boy to let the damn cop in. You know what I'm saying? I think it was fear.
But she made a conscious effort to not allow the boy to use her phone.
That's true. That's true. You gotta remember that too as well.
So she knew something was wrong at whatever time. I don't know. The boy got up at what, 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock?
I don't remember.
Also, yeah, I believe he got up too and was looking for his sister. Because remember, she said he got up and cried because his sister wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him, "Did you try?" Oh, I tried to, ask her if I could use her phone, and she said no.
Right.
So that tells you made a conscious effort to stop that boy because you knew that boy was going to tell his mother that his sister is gone, and you couldn't let that happen.
You know what I feel? I feel like even if so we determined that if she had let the cop know when the cop showed up at like 7 in the morning that maybe things would have turned out different. But absolutely, if she had called the cops at 3 a.m. when he was in the midst of doing all this shit, like when she first woke up and they were gone or whatever, if she had called the cops then, oh my God, they could have saved the little girl. You know what I'm saying?
Or allowed him to call his mother.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the mother would have called the police if her son called at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, but by then it was already done. By the time that little boy got up, the damage was done.
So?
Well, what time? But what time did the boy?
After that, the father came back and got the little boy.
Yes, but he asked to use the phone prior to that because the father wasn't there when he asked to use the phone.
Yeah, but it was already light outside. The little boy did not get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
He did say it was a little light outside. I think.
Yes, the sun was already up.
Yeah.
Everything.
So the father
she told him to wait till your father gets back.
Yeah. So 5 o'clock. If the deed wasn't done,
it was already done because when he left back out at 3-something in the morning, that's when he went to the place where he went to do what he did to be done with her.
So you think when allegedly the girlfriend saw the baby standing outside and he came in the house to get something and and he left
that's when he came and got the pow out the closet.
Right.
That she didn't see actually what he got from the closet.
Right.
And I think she knew he had a gun, that he kept a gun in the house.
Yeah, she said she don't know what he got. Okay, you may not be able to say specifically if you didn't see it. Well, come on now. It just really makes me angry or whatever, upset in the fact that when I feel like something can be prevented, or that if somebody doesn't do everything that for something to be prevented, it makes sense for him that, when he left back out and the baby was standing by the car that he left and did what he did. But I still just, on my brain, I want to think that if that woman had called the police, then maybe, just maybe, that the baby, could have been saved or whatever. I don't know. It's just so sad. And this case, honestly, even over the weekend, it's just really, really weighing on my spirit. Because, it's one thing for these little psychopaths, these murderers, to do what they do. But when they have help, and I don't mean just direct help, I mean indirect help. And that's what I feel the way I feel about that girlfriend. At some point, children need to be protected at all times. by everyone around them. And that's when we was talking about how, back in the day, there were villages. There's no fucking way in this world, like back in the day when people were watching out for people and people were watching out for kids, that this shit would be so easy to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah, because had she called the police right then and there at 3-something after he left, even if they couldn't save that little girl, she could rest at night knowing she did all she could have done.
And that's what I'm saying. How could you live with yourself? Like, how can you live with yourself knowing that you didn't do everything in your power to protect this child? And I'm starting to think and question whether or not she even had kids, because you got to think about it. What if it was one of your kids? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You could see initially you were more adamant about protecting that man than that baby.
Mm-hmm.
And that shit is sickening to me. Like, honestly.
Yeah, so they ran down the real
sick.
deal with her and letting her know, listen, you gonna be in trouble because you know more than what you're
and I
telling.
believe they had to do that in order for that woman to talk. I really do
You
believe
know
that.
more than what you're telling us, and we will file charges against you.
Even if she had let that boy call his mother would have immediately called the police at, say, 6 a.m. versus them showing up at the house at 7:30. That's an hour and a half.
Even so, the damage was already done.
Yeah, but still, then again, the damage is done, but he can't squeak and he can't hide anything.
Well, his whole behavior when the police came around says it all.
Yeah, it did. It did.
His whole behavior. That tells it all. Yeah. I mean, Stevie Wonder could see it.
Exactly. And that mama seen it too. That's why she acted the way she acted.
Yeah.
She know him. Because see, this is the thing that you gotta remember, that was a relationship. And let's just think about it, ladies. When we confront a man about, let's just say, cheating, they become defensive. If they're guilty, they become defensive. And they had it. That's why she got so angry.
And he was too fidgety. And he was too fidgety. He couldn't stand still. He was doing entirely too much.
I can't remember shit. I don't know my number. I don't know my address. Hell, I don't know if I got drawers on at this point.
Well, don't forget, because as soon as that cop entered that house, he was gone. He was thinking in my mind, what did I forget? What did I forget? What do I need to clean up? What do I need to get? What do I need to hide?
No, he couldn't even keep his lies straight.
He took, as soon as he was already halfway down the walkway, and the cop hadn't even entered the house yet. He was talking.
He walked out before she even opened the door.
He was halfway down. She gonna open the door. She gonna open the door, and he was already walking away. And then she popped her head out and looked outside. What's going on? And as she's walking away, he's like, "Did you ask him?" And she's pointing down the walkway, and he's kept on walking. So that told me he had a lot. He was worried that he didn't do something. He had to leave right then and there.
The shit was getting real. The shit was getting real because the cops were out there. Mm-hmm.
But now he should have been in there going, yeah, I looked in the closet. Yeah, I looked in the bathroom. Yeah, I looked in that closet too. None of that, because she didn't say any of that. Well, yeah, we looked in there.
She was like, when the cop went in the closet, she was like, nothing but clothes. You knew it was nothing but clothes. Yeah, because you knew that baby wasn't there. All right, let's listen to some more of this, y'all. Let's see, because I want to get through at least this video today before I have to get off.
Typically, fingernail swabs, we do often receive them in as part of sexual assault kits or from instances where there might have been close contact where an individual may have scratched someone. That was typically when we see them, but they're often collected and we receive them at the laboratory.
And the hand swabs, both the left hand and right hand swab, again, the only DNA that was
from the left or right hand swab.
So in summary, all the DNA that was taken from swabs from Mr. Dinkins had only Mr. Dinkins' DNA.
From those that I received, yes, that's correct.
In item 54, the shirt, there was blood on that shirt, but that was Mr. Dinkins' blood, right?
Blood was indicated on that shirt. Blood was not confirmed because that confirmatory test was not conducted. However, no DNA, unlike Mr. Dinkins, was obtained from that stain.
And there was no need to confirm that blood because it was male DNA, right?
No, we actually do the confirmatory test for blood prior to DNA testing. However, due to the quantity of the stain was very small. So I didn't want to do the confirmatory testing because if I did, I might have consumed or used up too much of the stain. So I felt the DNA testing was more informative.
The items in the trunk, the shorts in the trunk, again, no DNA of Breasia Terrell was found on those items, was there?
From the shorts from the trunk, Ms. Terrell was excluded from the stain from the inside back crotch area of the shorts. She could not be visually excluded from the inside waistband, but again, there was limited support for exclusion. So there was support for exclusion.
Moving on to the items found in the apartment at 2744 East 53rd Street. Swabs from the drain, all the swabs from the bathroom. Again, no blood, right?
That is correct. Blood was not detected on those items.
So if there's been testimony or if there's blood preliminarily thought to be found there, confirmatory tests done by you indicate there was no blood on any of those items, correct?
That is correct, but I want to clarify, blood was not detected. It doesn't mean blood couldn't have been there. It could have been below our limit of detection.
Okay, but for evidence of this record, you have no evidence of blood on those items.
That is correct. Blood was not detected using our exams.
And the only evidence of semen stains you have are from the mattress at that location, right?
Yes, that is correct. Semen was identified on some of the cuttings from the mattress.
And that's not to be unexpected on a bed, correct?
That is correct.
Moving on to Schmidt Road and the RV that was found there, items number 39, 40, 41, 42, and 44. Those are swabs from the sink and swabs from foam padding found inside the RV. Those were tested for blood.
That is correct.
Was blood detected?
No, it was not.
In item 47, there was talk of a machete found on top of the microwave. Does that comport with your best recollection?
Yes, that is correct.
Was there any blood detected on that machete?
Blood was not detected.
That it was tested, right?
It was not.
But it wasn't, right?
That is correct. Again, I had made the determination that because blood was not detected on that item, I would not swab for DNA testing.
The likelihood of finding DNA in that machete without blood would be fairly low.
It depends on what the DNA is from. If there was saliva or other body fluids present on the machete, there could have been DNA. However, based off the case and circumstances, I was strictly looking for blood in this case.
Okay. What do you mean when you say case circumstances?
Again, there was a missing child, so the information I had was they wanted to determine if there was potentially blood on these items.
No other semen was found in this case, was there? As far as you know.
From the items that I tested, no semen was not detected on any of the items besides the mattress cuttings.
And the machete that was item 48 and number 48-1, the sheath from another machete, no blood detected on that, right?
That is correct.
Was Breasia Terrell's DNA located anywhere that you tested?
Yes, there was one item where when I compared Ms. Terrell, her DNA did match, and this was a pair of underwear from inside a plastic bag. Blood and semen were not detected on that item. However, when I did the DNA testing, because typically with underwear, we would still swab the inside crotch region of the underwear to see whose DNA it might have been. Female DNA was obtained from that item, and it was interpreted assuming one individual. That was compared to Ms. Terrell, and she did match to that DNA. The likelihood ratio I got was 84 trillion, which means very strong support for inclusion.
And that was in this plastic bag of children's clothing, correct?
Yes, it was a plastic bag of clothing.
And that one positive hit for DNA, I'm going to call it, for Ms. Terrell, was Mr. Dinkins' DNA found anywhere on that sample?
No, Mr. Dinkins and Ms. Culberson were excluded from that.
So other than that DNA that was discovered in that plastic bag, Ms. Terrell's DNA is found nowhere on the items that you tested, right?
For the limited items I tested, I did not have any support for inclusion for Ms. Terrell on those other items, with the exception of that underwear.
So we have no DNA of Ms. Terrell in the Impala, correct?
From the items that I only tested one item from the Impala for DNA, and her DNA was not detected.
Okay. And we could have tested for DNA had we chosen to, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
No DNA of Ms. Terrell in the Camaro, correct?
For the Camaro, I don't believe any There was no DNA testing done on the Camaro. It was only blood testing.
Okay. Could have done that if we wanted, correct?
It's possible. Again, the only item I believe I received from that was a shirt.
Okay. And her DNA was not discovered in the apartment either, correct?
For the mattress cuttings, I could not compare her to one of those cuttings, so I can't state one way or the other. For another cutting, she was uninformative. So again, it's more of an inconclusive result, but there was no support for inclusion. That is correct.
But other than the mattress, there was no DNA located anywhere in that apartment, correct?
Again, DNA testing was not conducted because they were negative for blood.
Okay. Could have been had the test been done.
That is correct. I could have sent additional items on, but again, because the information I had was that Ms. Terrell had been in that apartment previously, finding her DNA was not informative in my opinion.
And on Mr. Dinkins' person, no DNA of Ms. Terrell was located, correct?
Correct. From the penile and hand swabs as well as the fingernail swabs, no DNA, unlike Mr. Dinkins, was obtained.
And on any clothing that was taken from Mr. Dinkins, there was no DNA from Ms. Terrell, correct?
Ms. Terrell was excluded from the one stain that I sent on for DNA testing from the shirt from Mr. Dinkins. That is correct.
And was that shirt identified as the one he was wearing on July 10th?
I do not know that information.
That's fair. Very well, thank you.
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Smith, can you explain what a serology examination is?
Sure. Serology is the identification of body fluids on forensic items. At the FBI laboratory, we test for blood and semen.
All right. And then if you were doing some type of serology examination, are there light sources that have to be utilized so that you can observe bodily fluids that may not be obvious to the naked eye?
Yes, for when we're testing an item for semen, the biologist would use an alternate light source that causes semen to fluoresce or glow under the lighting. So we would use that if we're looking for semen. If we're looking for blood, we would typically just use natural light or maybe a lamp that has a stronger light.
Okay. Now let's go to the conversation that counsel had with you about with the FBI's evidence response team. Are you familiar with the processes that they utilize where one of the things that they will do is they will use alternate light sources to identify the presence of blood?
Yes, I am aware of the fact that they can do that. I don't know specifically what any ERT unit will do because there are multiple tests available.
All right. And then so very simply, as far as informative testimony relative to the trunk area of the Impala, we should look to the testimony of the agent who was involved in the processing of that vehicle. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, I was not present during any of the collection of evidence, so I can't speak to why or when specific items were collected.
Okay. And if there's testimony, that did not indicate the need to collect any type of what I'm going to call carpet from the trunk, you have no reason to, you have no basis for why that decision would have been made. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about this. Say, for example, a subject has DNA, somebody else's DNA on their body, potentially under fingernails, or, if there's been some type of sex act, maybe the transfer of an individual's DNA into the area of their penis. How would bathing affect the presence of DNA on an individual's body?
Typically, when an individual bathes, they remove their DNA on the surface of the body, especially if they it's going to obviously depend on the amount of scrubbing, what type of chemicals or soaps they're using, but we do expect that bathing will remove DNA.
All right. And so if an individual's whereabouts and movements are unknown for a period of time before law enforcement comes into contact with that individual and collects samples such as buccal swabs and penile swabs and even swabs underneath fingernails, would that be something that needs to be recognized and considered?
Yes, typically when we're doing our testing, finding out the information of the length of time between when the alleged incident occurred and when the items were collected is helpful because in my experience, the longer the amount of time that goes on, the less DNA you would expect to find on an individual's body because of the fact that they can wash, go to the bathroom, things of that nature that can help remove DNA.
And then finally, if in the course of an investigation, one of the things that has been noted is that a subject of interest has changed clothing, is that going to be something that would be important for you to consider when you are receiving clothing and examining it for the presence of another individual's DNA?
Yes, typically in a case, we would want the clothing that they were wearing at the time of the alleged incident to be submitted to the laboratory because that is going to be the more intimate items. As people change and as, if they put different clothes on, I wouldn't expect necessarily to find probative information from that.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Freeze?
Ma'am, DNA can last a very long time, can it?
It can, yes, as long as it's stored properly, DNA can.
Even if it's not stored properly, there still can be the likelihood of finding DNA on an item, correct?
Yes, it can. There is heat, water, moisture, bacteria, mold. Those all do break down DNA, and it can happen relatively quickly. Humidity. So you typically would see DNA last on items for a long time if it is a cool, dry, dark environment.
Have you tested items that have been subjected to the elements for a period of time in your lab?
I have, yes.
And you have found on those items, on occasion, DNA, haven't you?
Yes, on occasion I have. Sometimes the DNA is degraded, but I have found DNA when it has been subjected to some of those extreme conditions.
And sometimes you find partial profiles and things like that, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
In this case, were you asked to test any item from the scene where Breasia Terrell's remains were found?
I was not, no.
So after March of 2021, you were asked by no one to do any more testing?
No, I was actually not even familiar that she had been found.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Cunningham.
Thank you. I do have one final question. You talk about how DNA will degrade, and the best way to preserve that would be in a cool, dry, dark environment. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Speaks to conditions where we have an environment where it has been rainy, there's humidity, there's sunlight, and warmer temperatures. How would that impact DNA?
That would degrade DNA relatively quickly. Those environments do break down DNA, and I would not expect to get DNA if it's been an extended period of time.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The state would call Patrick Seaver.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Please have a seat. You may proceed.
Thank you. Can you please state and spell your name?
Patrick Sievert, Patrick. Sievert is Sievert.
How are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed as a police officer at the Davenport Police Department.
How long have you worked for the Davenport Police Department?
17 years.
And currently, what capacity do you work for the Davenport Police Department?
I'm currently assigned as a corporal on afternoon shift patrol.
Have you held or worked in different areas within the Davenport Police Department?
Yes, I have.
What other areas have you worked?
Besides patrol, I've worked in our major case unit, our narcotics unit, our NETS unit, and our street crimes unit.
Can you briefly describe your educational background and any training that you've received for your positions?
I attended college at North Central College in Naperville, Illinois. Afterwards, I was hired by the police department, attended the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. After the academy, received field training through the department, and then there's yearly training after that.
Did you say there's yearly training after that?
Correct.
And that's something you would have participated in throughout your entire employment? In what capacity were you working for the Davenport Police Department?
At that time, I was a detective in our narcotics unit.
And on July 10th of 2020, were you asked to assist in executing a search warrant at a motorhome or RV located at 743 Schmidt Road?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall approximately what time you would have began executing that search warrant?
I believe it was early afternoon.
Now, prior to any searching, what did you do when you first arrived to that location?
When I first arrived, we did not have the warrant signed yet. We were preparing, so we did a search of the parking lot, looking for any evidence.
And after the search warrant had been prepared, how did you then proceed?
Initially photographed the exterior of the camper, then make entry and take overall photos of the interior.
Now, at that particular time, what was the purpose of that search warrant?
I believe it was to check for Breasia inside the camper.
And so really, were you going in trying to look for any evidence of a crime scene or anything at that point in time?
Evidence of a crime scene, yes, but we didn't have any specific items we were looking for at that moment.
So really, you're just going in there looking to see if Breasia's there and to see what that scene appeared like.
Correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
So handing what's been marked the state's exhibits 8-1 through 867. Do you recognize those exhibits?
Yes, I do.
And what are these exhibits?
These were the photographs taken by me during the search warrant, the first search warrant.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the condition of this RV when you executed the search warrant, the first one, on July 10th, 2020?
Yes, I do.
At this time, Your Honor, the state would offer exhibits 8-1 through 867 into evidence.
No objection. Those exhibits will be admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
All right, so showing you first State's Exhibit 8-1, what are we looking at here?
This is the front end of the camper that the warrant was executed on.
State's Exhibit 8-2, what is this?
This is the front passenger side of the same camper.
And then State's Exhibit 8-3, what is that?
This is the passenger side.
State's Exhibit 8-9,
Is the view from the door looking into the camper.
so as you enter the camper, this would be the first thing that you see.
Correct.
This is State's Exhibit 8-10,
This is basically from the door looking towards the rear of the camper.
and can you just describe what different items are being shown here in this photograph?
This shows the kitchen and then a hallway leading to a bedroom.
State's Exhibit 8-12, what's being shown here?
This is from the doorway looking towards the front of the camper.
And State's Exhibit 8-13,
This is basically standing in the kitchen with a view towards the back of the camper.
and to the left of this photograph, is that a microwave?
Yes, it is.
This is State's Exhibit 8-14,
This is basically from the entry of the bedroom into the bedroom at the rear of the camper.
8-17, what's being shown here?
This is the bed and the exterior windows.
State's Exhibit 8-20, what's being shown here?
Underneath the bed
And what does appear to be underneath the bed?
appears to be a small table.
And in the upper left-hand corner of this photograph, what is being shown?
There's a bottle of bleach cleaner.
Showing you State's Exhibit 8-21, what is being shown here?
This is the closet in the bedroom.
State's Exhibit 8-22, what's being shown here?
Items in the closet.
And then State's Exhibit 8-23,
More items in the closet.
against overview of the bedroom showing underneath and the spray bottle of bleach.
That's correct.
This is State's Exhibit A26. What's being shown here?
This is a blue laundry basket that was located on the floor of the closet.
State's 828.
This is again the blue laundry basket with the contents.
State's 829
This is the interior of the refrigerator.
and State's 830.
It's the interior of the freezer.
Fair to say both are pretty empty.
Yes.
And State's Exhibit A31. Where was this located?
This was, I believe, on top of, to be honest, I can't remember exactly where this was located. It was on top of some shelf, but I don't know exactly which one.
And what appears to be depicted in this photograph?
Spray bottle, some type of brush, and a mat of some sort.
And State's Exhibit A32.
This is there's a machete located on top of the microwave. This is depicting an overview of where that is located.
Now, when you were in this RV, approximately how tall are you?
I am 6 foot tall.
While you were standing there looking at the microwave, were you able to observe that machete just visually from how high you are, or how tall you are, excuse me?
Yes, I could see the machete from my height, yes.
Moving on then to State's Exhibit A33, what are we looking at here?
This is a closer view of the machete along with a digital scale that was located in the corner.
In order to take those photographs, how did you go about doing that?
These photographs were taken with my camera held about head high for me.
So can you demonstrate what you mean by that?
Yeah, it was held above my head like this with the camera being held about my height or my head.
Going back just briefly to State's Exhibit 832, it'd be somewhat difficult to see here with the glare, but what portions of that machete are visible, I guess, if you weren't standing there looking right at it?
The handle is hanging off the edge of the microwave about 4 inches, I believe.
This is State's Exhibit 835. What is being shown here?
The idea of this photo was to show the stains on the carpet.
And then State's Exhibit 836, what's being shown here?
This is the chair and table with a Paw Patrol blanket and a Home Sweet Home pillow.
You indicated that's a Paw Patrol blanket.
Correct.
You know what Paw Patrol is?
I do, yes.
What is that?
It's a child's cartoon about dogs that rescue people.
On State's Exhibit 838,
It's a teddy bear on the chair.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Like,
They're,
really?
they're establishing that he brings children to this
Had
RV.
to. Had to.
That
What in the
that
hell?
they're establishing that he's brought children to this RV
Oh
before.
my God.
Now, let's remember, this is a 1979 RV. Paw Patrol is not that old of a cartoon.
Wow.
So when exactly did he place these items in there, and for what reason?
Wow. Oh, you know what? Mm-mm. He's done it before. He's gotten away with this shit.
I believe so. I believe that they need to take a better look at Cricket Island, because I need to know, how long has that RV been parked there?
Oh my God.
Because if that RV has been there for, say, 4 or 5 years, then he may have done this before.
Real facts. All right, let's listen, y'all. Let's listen.
while you were taking photographs in this RV, I'm showing you State's Exhibit A47. What are we being shown here?
This is the registration for the camper in the name of Nita McQuay.
Do you know who Nita McQuay is?
I do not.
It says State's Exhibit A49. What's being shown here?
I have, during this photo, I've opened that grocery bag found some clothes inside. This is showing what was located inside that grocery bag.
In State's Exhibit A50,
There's another photo of the same.
at some point, did you then start pulling items out of that grocery bag?
Yes, it did.
This is State's Exhibit A51.
This is a white t-shirt located in the bag. It was muddy and wet.
State's Exhibit A52.
These were jeans that were located in the grocery bag, also muddy and wet.
State's Exhibit A55.
Showing the size of the jeans.
To your knowledge, size 1 to 2 Is that an adult female sizing?
Yes, I believe so.
States Exhibit A57.
These were Under Armour shoes located in the grocery bag.
And States Exhibit A62.
This is the size of the shoe, which is a 7.5 in the US.
Are you able to tell from the label if this is a male shoe or a female shoe based on the size?
I could not tell.
Now, any of the items that we've talked about here that were documented in these photographs, were they collected at this point in time?
The only item that we showed in the photographs that was collected was the digital.
Now, you've already mentioned a first search warrant being executed. At some point, was there a second search warrant executed at the same RV?
Correct. Basically, during the search, we notified our bosses of what we had located. The warrant we had didn't cover any of those items, such as machete or clothing, so another search warrant was drafted.
At some point, were you provided information that there had been a report of a machete and some involvement regarding a machete?
Yeah, there was information.
And so at that point, application was made for a second search warrant. And did you execute that search warrant?
Yes, I did.
When did that occur?
Several hours after the first one.
But on July 10th?
Correct.
And during that search warrant, did you take additional photographs?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Okay, so that kind of clears up some of my thoughts. So
Remember I said
yeah,
that day. Yes, they took the RV, they took the cars on the July 10th, which is the day she disappeared. So they were all the warrants were executed on July 10th.
Gotcha. All right, y'all. So we got like 8, maybe 10 more minutes. We're gonna listen.
I'm handing you what's been marked as States Exhibits 9-1 through 9-13. Do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes, I do.
And what are these exhibits?
These are my photos of the second search warrant.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the photographs or the condition and the items you would have collected during the execution of the second search warrant at this RV on July 10th, 2020?
That's correct.
At this time, Your Honor, the state would move to admit exhibits 9-1 through 9-13 into evidence.
No objection. Those exhibits will be admitted.
May I publish?
You may.
All right, so State's Exhibit 9-2, again, same RV that we were talking about in those previous exhibits, right?
Correct.
So 9-4, what are we being shown here?
This is the machete and how it overhangs the microwave.
State's Exhibit 9-5.
This is showing the blade end of the machete.
And while you were documenting this machete, did you make any observations of its condition?
As I was looking at it, I could see what appeared to be some type of white cloth or paper on the serrated edge of the machete.
This is State's Exhibit 9-7.
This is showing the sheath for the machete that was located kind of tucked underneath the couch.
Now, when you eventually, did you collect both the machete and the sheath?
Yes, it is.
At any point in time, did you put the sheath on the machete to see if it fit or was a match or anything like that?
No, I did not.
This is State's Exhibit 9-9.
So this is the machete removed from where it was located on the microwave and placed in a box. This is, again, highlighting the paper or material located on the serrated edge.
And showing you then State's Exhibit 9-10, is that just a closer up of that serrated edge and the white pieces of what appear to be cloth or something along those lines?
Correct.
I'm showing you now State's Exhibit 67. You had previously testified that you did collect the machete. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 67?
Yes, I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 67?
This is the machete that I collected from the camper on top of the microwave.
And that would have been the camper located at 743 Schmidt Road that you collected on July 10th, 2020?
Correct.
And showing you then State's Exhibit 68, it's based on the label. Do you know what State's Exhibit 68 is?
Yes, I do. It's the sheath that was located on the floor.
And that would have been collected again on the same day, July 10th, 2020, from that same RV.
Correct.
After collecting these items, what would you have done with them?
Basically, take photographs and then place it in evidence.
And would that have been placed into evidence at the Davenport Police Station?
That's correct.
At this time, Your Honor, the state would offer Exhibit 67.
67 and 68 will be admitted.
I may publish 2 more photos, Your Honor. So I want to show you again, this is State's Exhibit 833, which again would have been photographs taken the first time that you were at this RV. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is.
And again, the first time you were there, and are you able to observe any of that white cloth or fibers, whatever that might be, on the machete here?
Yes, you can.
And again, in State's Exhibit 834, again, a closer up image of that serrated part of the machete. Are you still able to observe those white pieces of cloth at that point?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Summarize here, essentially, your testimony involves serving 2 search warrants on July 10th, 2020 to that RV that we just looked at, right?
That's correct.
Okay, the first one was in the early afternoon on July 10th of 2020.
That's the best of my recollection.
Okay, and then the next one was a couple or a few hours later, right?
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about that clear spray bottle that you saw or you took a picture of the first time you were there. Any liquid inside that spray bottle?
Not that I recall.
Smell any bleach?
I did not smell any bleach.
Okay. I want to then talk to you about this machete that we've looked at a couple pictures of. I think you just testified that you saw some sort of cloth on it, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit 67. And you would have been the person to collect this item, correct?
That's correct.
You can open it up and look at it. You would have also been the person to put the label on that box, right?
That's correct.
Okay, can you just read the label on that box?
Silver machete with black handle located on top of microwave. Appears to have blood fingerprint near the handle.
Okay. Can you tell me where you see blood?
There's also some photos of it, but there are a fingerprint and then there's some type of reddish brown spot on the blade, on the blade near the handle, which I've noted just to make sure other people were aware of that as well.
Just give me one moment here. This is State's Exhibit 9-4. If you could use the pointer next to you I can grab. Could you please just point to me where you see something to be appearing blood on that handle?
You cannot see it from the
Down?
Yes, I noticed it as I did the further examination after I removed it from this location.
Okay, did you take a picture of what you saw that appeared to be blood?
Yes, it did.
Would it have been in State's Exhibit number 9?
Yes, it would have.
Showing you State's Exhibit 9-6. Can you see the stain that appears to be blood on that handle in this photo?
No, you cannot.
Showing you State's Exhibit 9-9. Can you see it on this photo?
So the spot that I was indicating on, for as far as the blood, is located right here.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mrs. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Boy, he whooped that picture off there quick, didn't he?
So showing you State's Exhibit 911. Is this a closer up look at the areas that you thought you observed either blood and or a fingerprint?
That's correct.
And now these were observations that you made just with your naked eye, correct?
That's correct.
Something that you would have documented and then turned over that information to a detective or to some sort of crime scene tech to allow them to do any sort of further analysis.
That's correct.
So you yourself didn't do any sort of testing to determine whether this was actually blood or a fingerprint or anything like that.
That's correct.
Do you know if there was any additional testing done on the machete yourself?
I believe so. I do not know for sure.
Would want us just to rely on the other individuals who would have done that testing and their results for those findings.
Correct.
I have no further questions.
Sir, in your training experience, does that machete that we just looked at appear to be wiped down?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Oh, there's some, would be the best way for me to describe it. Possibility of us, yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Ms. O'Donnell,
Nothing further, Your Honor.
you may step down.
Thank you.
That would be our last witness for the day.
All right, thank you. I would like to make a record of our last bench conference. The bench conference concerned Exhibit 9-9-10. The defense objected to the witness conclusively testifying to fabric or fibers on that item based on the fact that that exhibit had not been admitted at that time. The defense did note that most likely there would be no objection to the exhibit once asked to be admitted by the state. The court noted there was confusing testimony provided by the witness at that time as to whether she was the actual person that identified viewing the fibers herself. The court sustained the objection and requested the state to rephrase. Is that a fair summary, Ms. Cunningham?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Freeze?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll be in adjournment until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, y'all. I don't know why my thing took so long to unmute, but that's it for today, y'all. Anybody on the panel got anything to say about today?
It's getting good. It's getting better.
It's good.
You know, I just can't say too much.
Wait a minute, hold on, because I missed what you said. What you said now?
I said, you know, I can't say too much.
Okay, so can you tell us who's coming up next? Do you remember?
Oh no, I can't remember who's coming up.
Oh God, you know what?
I've been finished. You just on day 6, going on 7 now. I can't remember.
Wait a minute, hold on. I feel attacked.
What I miss?
What'd you say?
What I miss?
Fawn attacking me.
Huh?
That's normal. It's normal. Welcome to the club. Me and
Wait a
Trey get
minute.
attacked by her all the time. Right, Trey?
What just happened?
Just shut up.
What? What?
Truth Hurts says Fawn just attacked her, and I said we get attacked by Fawn all the time, don't we?
Yeah, every day.
At least twice a day.
Now see that you know what, you're taking it too far. Don't put all that on. I don't know about twice a day. Don't do that.
Sometimes.
I'm surprised she ain't said nigga please yet.
Well, that and the traditional fuck you clown. Usually that comes out at some point.
Oh Lord, what did I start? Okay, all right.
All right. So what did Fawn attack you with? I need to know. I had to walk away for a second.
You just trying to be a smart ass time. You just on day 6. I'm done.
Well, you know, we
How
started.
are you going on day 7? I can't remember now who's coming up next.
We started early today.
What?
We started. We actually started early, a half hour early. Instead of a half hour late, we showed up a half hour early. Trey was late, but we were early.
Okay. Maybe I just won't go live today on my y'all want to listen to some more? I'm gonna take a vote in the chat. Y'all want to listen to some more? Or y'all good for today? What do you think, Fun? What do you think I should do? Do you think I should keep
All I need is 2 cigars and some Hennessy.
Pull up on your ATV.
See, I feel like I need to go live today. I think everybody waiting on that part 2 on that live.
Happy September 11th, everybody.
Yeah, it is September 11th. Yeah, 9/11. So from
I want to say, hold on.
We should start listening to some more. Rice Cake said more.
Yeah, go ahead because day 7 is not going to be that long.
Go on.
I'm skimming through it.
Okay. All right.
And this is kind of good. I think day 7 is kind of good.
Okay. Did anyone else notice that they took the digital scale, but not the machete?
They what now?
They took the digital scale, but not the machete.
No, I didn't notice that.
So if you notice, when he came back to take the pictures of the machete on top of the microwave, the digital scale was gone. They confiscated that and took it into evidence because they're testing it to see if he's using the RV to say weigh things that he should be. and because the digital scale is considered paraphernalia in the police.
Which it should not be. We use that for cooking and stuff.
Well, what they confiscate it as paraphernalia, and what they do is they swab it to see if it comes back positive for any illegal substance.
They don't spend no money on that bullshit. They just take it, charge you with it, just like they do if they catch you with sandwich bags. If there's drugs in the house, you got sandwich bags. Paraphernalia.
Yeah,
Even though all this shit is sold at the corner store.
Well, it
But
doesn't.
they ain't testing nothing. They'll simply look at it and be like, residue. If it's residue on it, you're getting charged with paraphernalia. If there's no residue on it, you're still getting charged with paraphernalia. They ain't testing it.
All it is a swab. You swab it and then you stick it in this little tube that has liquid in it. Close it, shake it, and if it turns, I believe it's blue or purple for certain drugs, it has drugs on it.
It don't be that much residue on a scale that you can test, sir, because typically it's stuck on there. Like the thing is, you want to get all the drugs in the bag so you don't leave a lot on the scale. I heard. This is what I heard.
Doesn't take much to turn that blue or purple.
Where did you hear this from?
I watch a lot of true crime and stuff on the internet.
Right.
Well, Sonia, I believe that's why I believe that's why they took the scale as a backup. They would have held him for the scale or and said that there may have been drug residue. Let's test it, and they could hold him for that for 48 hours until the test comes back.
You know, I watched this YouTuber who husband, sold drugs and stuff, and he sold meth and stuff before. So, I that's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Was he a Crip? Oh, okay.
Y'all ignorant. Y'all put the E.
I just thought that was interesting that they snatched the scale, but didn't take the machete, even though it clearly had. Okay, everyone knows what a serrated edge is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the top part of the machete that has those ridges in it, and it's used for cutting. So you would cut a tree limb down with that instead of trying to chop it. You would actually take the serrated edge and cut, and it would saw through whatever you need to saw through versus trying to cut it with the sharp end. So he found towels on there. Number two, did anyone notice?
No, wait a minute. Phone said day 7 ain't that long. Day 7 is 7 hours long, phone.
I told you to stop going by that.
Oh,
there's a lot of breaks. Is there a lot of breaks in there?
If you scan through real fast, you will see what I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm gonna take your word for it.
Okay, well, what I'm saying,
scan through it real fast and you'll see what I'm talking about.
All right, wait. What I'm saying is, did anyone else not question in their mind why the man had a size 1-2 pants and they were damp?
Did you be questioning everything they find in that damn RV? Like at this point.
But I'm just saying, it was muddy and damp. Well, how long has that been there, and whose are they? Could it? Do you think the girlfriend was a size 1-2?
So you gonna have to sit here and rack our brain and go crazy trying to figure that shit out. All that shit is weird.
Do you think the girlfriend was a size 1-2?
You trying to be petite. Funny now? You know that.
No, I'm not.
Wasn't no size 1 or 2.
No, but she was. No, she was not that big. So who belongs to a size 1-2 pants, and why are they wet?
So you want us to answer that shit? Like
no, I'm just saying. Nobody else thought that was funny. That the clothes that he pulled out, the t-shirt was wet, and the pants were muddy and wet. So if it was just something that was in that RV, why would it be wet? And why would it be muddy?
Just stay tuned.
And muddy, as his shoes were also.
You trying to get fun to tell us because fun, no.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just observing, and I'm just stating what I'm observing. I'm not like Fawn. I don't cheat and go ahead of you guys. I'm hearing the things.
Why's all the shade?
I'm hearing things as you hear it.
Ooh, Lord. I ain't going. I'm not going.
Don't go, Fawn. Don't go, because that's what he's trying to do. You know what he's trying to do.
I ain't going.
Oh, hell. Okay. All right, so y'all, this is day 7. I'm gonna do at least 30 minutes, and then I gotta go. I gotta get off of here. So I will have 3 hours in since Fawn that we so far behind.
I was just saying, damn, I can't say nothing around this piece. Dang.
Okay, here we go, y'all.
Guilty much? Guilty conscious?
Guilty much? Like guilty much, Fawn? Like really? Since we already know you cheated extensively.
It ain't getting no help from the chat either. I'm like, dang, am I the black sheep of the family or what?
God damn, look at Poindexter.
You know what? Don't start. I'm sick of you harassing these witnesses. I'm sick of it. Leave that man alone. You're another stressed out agent of some sort. I don't know. I think people look stressed out, damn it.
State your name for the record and spell both your first and your last name.
Evan Obert, Evan, last name Obert, Obert.
What is your occupation?
Corporal with the Davenport Police Department.
How long have you been employed with the Davenport Police Department?
7.5 years.
Could you describe your prior educational background?
Bachelor's degree from Luther College, and then I attended the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy in 2016.
Is that when you began your formal career with the Davenport Police Department?
Yes.
Could you describe for us the different capacities that you've served the department over the course of your 7-year career?
I completed the FTO program and was assigned to night shift for approximately 2.5 years. And then I was promoted to the Detective Bureau, where I was in that unit in the Special Victims Unit for 3.5 years. I was promoted to corporal in August of last year. As part of that process, I was moved to afternoon shift patrol. I've been there since, and then was reassigned to the Detective Bureau for this trial preparation of this case.
All right. Detective Obert, were you involved in the investigation of the report involving a little girl by the name of Breasia Terrell, who was reported missing on July 10th of 2020?
I was.
Okay. Were you the lead detective for this investigation?
Yes.
All right. Now that being said, before we talk about your involvement in the investigation, what I want to do is I want to do just a little cleanup. There are some items of exhibits that we needed to introduce, and so I'm going to take care of that now, and then we'll start talking about your role in this investigation. Your Honor, may the record reflect that I've previously provided counsel what's been marked as State's Exhibit 150-2. May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 150-2. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 150-2?
I do.
How do you recognize this exhibit?
It was a search warrant that I drafted and had signed by a judge for the maroon Chevrolet Impala that's registered to Andrea Culberson. Purpose of the search warrant was to collect mud that was on the undercarriage of the vehicle, along with dusting for latent prints on the outside of the Impala.
Now, Detective Obert, throughout the course of this investigation, were there a number of search warrants that were applied for and presented to the court for approval?
There was.
Do you have any idea the total number of search warrants that had been applied for and approved for execution in the course of this investigation? And if you're not sure, that's fine.
An approximate would be 20.
Okay. At any rate, were you the author of this particular search warrant?
I was.
Was this one of several search warrants that were approved for the Chevy Impala?
Yes.
Okay. And then just for purposes of perspective, with each search warrant that was applied for relative to the maroon Chevy Impala, as information was coming in from various witness statements or officers were making various observations about the condition of the vehicle, would that then form the parameter for any given search warrant that was applied for?
Yes.
Okay. What's the date of the search warrant?
July 20th of 2020.
Does your signature appear on the application for search warrant?
It is.
Did you present it to a magistrate for review?
Yes.
And then was there a search warrant that was signed off by a magistrate authorizing this search?
Yes.
Okay. And then what date did a magistrate sign off on the search warrant?
July 20th of 2020.
We are interested in only very limited information. With the application for search warrant, did you include an attachment A that basically set forth a probable cause statement in support of your request to be able to collect the items of evidence that you've identified?
Yes.
Okay. Within the context of the probable cause statement that was set forth, was there any information included within that attachment A of observations made by Detective Tharp when she had responded to the evidence bay with?
There is a line in the affidavit about a detective opening the trunk and the smell bleach.
Okay, thank you. Let's set that aside then. And let me go ahead and take that exhibit from you. The next matter that I would like to address before we talk about your involvement in this investigation involves laboratory reports generated by FBI analysts out at Quantico. Was the FBI involved in this particular investigation?
Yes.
Were there a number of items of evidence that were seized that were turned over to the FBI for submission to the FBI laboratory in Quantico?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, yesterday we had testimony from FBI analyst Linda Otterstatter, who did a trace evidence analysis, and then also from analyst Tiffany Smith, who did DNA. There were a few items of evidence that were submitted that did not give us location information. So we're just going to address that issue. Basically, an exhibit that sets forth location information for items in their laboratory report that didn't give us an idea of where they came from.
That is correct.
Okay. Your Honor, may the record reflect that I previously provided counsel States Exhibit 152. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Okay. I'm handing you States Exhibit 152. Do you recognize States Exhibit 152?
I do.
How do you recognize States Exhibit 152?
It is a printout of different items that were tested by the FBI lab and as properly associated DPD items, FBI items, and then lab number items.
Okay. And then is there more specific location information so that we understand where those items were seized from during the course of the Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to introduce States Exhibit 152.
No objection.
Exhibit 152 will be admitted.
And then, Your Honor, may I publish this so that we can get this information into our record?
You may.
Okay. Okay. How many items are we talking about here on this exhibit?
8.
8, okay. All right. How is that document captioned at the top?
Location information for items of evidence set forth in FBI laboratory reports of analyst Tiffany Smith and Linda Otterstatter, which do not have location information associated with.
Number 1.
Clothing.
Okay. And our DPT evidence item number with a bag of clothing at the apartment for the children.
That's correct.
Okay. And was that clothing provided to the Davenport Police Department in
Yeah.
the course of the investigation? And then when we received it, did we actually receive the original bag and another plastic bag that had the clothing that went into evidence?
We received the bag and the clothing. That's
Okay.
correct.
Now let's go to our number 2. What is item number 2?
Laboratory item number 36.
Okay. And what Davenport Police Department item number would that be?
430.
Okay.
Sorry, people. She dropped down. She'll be back in 1 second. Can everybody hear us? Can you hear us now? Fawn, can you hear me? Hello? Fawn, can you hear me? Okay. The chat can hear me. Okay. Everybody else is ignoring me like usual. So her audio started going out on the examination. So give her a second. She'll be back. Yes, Miss Ann, I'm going live tonight, my normal time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Just to let everybody know, I just put out an announcement for it. I'm kind of new at these announcement things through my OBS, so bear with me when it comes to those.
You and Flex are trying to run these people crazy, sir.
Why is that?
I've been seeing your damn community posts. You is fucking with these people.
They asking questions. I just want to answer it. You know, it's like, it's funny because they speak in half truths. You know what I mean? And half truths are not truths. They basically are the way you want to interpret it. So I'm just trying to.
I'm gonna start calling you Ricky and Michael Chris.
Boy, Leah is very yes, Leah. I just did it. I got to make sure. I believe it is. It is active right now. Yes, it is. The up and coming is there. So I did put it out for you guys to see it. I am going to also release a promo prior to me going live. And it's going to be 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay. So Fawn is on a call. Truth Hurts fell off. She'll be back in a second. And my up and coming is active right now. Can anybody see it? All right. She says she'll be right back. Yeah, there it is. So the up and coming is there. And your friend Pam chickened out on her live again today. She's pushed it back to the 13th. I was waiting to hear.
Is Truth on her lunch break again?
I think Tony unplugged something or plugged something in and it zapped it or something. I don't know. This happened last night when we were live. Remember? She fell off and it took her like 2 or 3 minutes to come back. Okay, yeah, 4 o'clock. That's Cali time. It's a 3-hour difference from here to Cali? Really? Okay.
So what you say your life is about?
Well, Miss Liz is highly upset. So this is Miss Liz got something to say.
Who she mad at?
Unspoken Uterus and her
Oh,
friends.
she gonna be cussing. I'm there. Unless she talking about me. If she gonna be talking about me, not Liz, Unspoken Uterus.
No. This she's speaking mostly about me and her backtracking, and because Biscuit's been pretty active right now. Now that
that's a nice house you have, Chris, Michael, Ricky.
It is. That's a beautiful. Chris has a very
That's a
nice
beautiful
house.
house.
Chris has a very too open for me. I like my houses back for like my house has a bunch of trees in front of it. You can't see. You got to drive up my driveway to see my house. That house is too open for me, but it is a nice house. And of course, come to find out today that that's not Chris's house. I guess it's too nice to be Chris's house. So, every day I wonder, what's today? What will it be today? But Biscuit is doing the most. So, he done called Chris everything under the sun.
How many people are watching Biscuit when he live?
I think like maybe 20.
Yes,
maybe.
yes, exactly.
And there's like maybe 5 people that actually chat with Biscuit. So I think I'm going to detail Biscuit's prison career. Where he bent over nightly for his cellmate. So.
Does he have a job yet?
No, he ain't got no job. And that 1982 Nissan that he's driving, he about 2 days away from that breaking down. But he's upset. He thinks, him and Pam should get together. I think they'd be a lovely couple. Pam and Biscuit, I think they'd be a lovely couple. Both of them are clueless. But now that Biscuit thinks he knows who I am, he's going in. He's going in. I feel like Perry now. When he zeroed in on Perry and he wouldn't stop. I feel like Perry now. Now I know what Perry and his wife went through.
I've been ignoring Biscuit all year. I'm gonna continue to.
I think he goes to work this Wednesday again. I don't know. He probably is. And it was pretty funny that Biscuit put up supposedly Chris's house, but he didn't put his up. And I'm like, let me do Biscuit a favor here. Let me put this house they think Chris lives in side by side next to Biscuit's house. And say you shouldn't be talking about nobody's house when you got that piece of shit shack you live in that you don't even live in the whole thing. Don't you say he's cut off at that door in the kitchen? He can't go any further. So somebody else lives in the back half of the house. Is that what they said? I believe that's the way it is. Somebody lives in the back half of the house, and he lives in the front half of the house. And it's a one bedroom, one bath with a kitchen and a living room, and that's it. Biscuit's house could fit in my garage. I'm just saying. But now they've all let loose. I have your name now. I'm gonna sue you. I'm giving you permission. Go ahead and try to sue Christopher. Whatever. How do you say his last name? Will Wignaw.
Folk ass ain't got no money to sue nobody.
Yeah, so please, I give you permission to sue Christopher Wignaw, and let's see where that leads. Go ahead and start making police reports on Christopher Wignaw, and let's see where that gets you. Yeah, Biscuit knows nothing. He's going.
The whole crazy part about this is saying you're Chris now is they've called you 5 other people and they've never yet to see you, so they can't say that you're any of these people because they don't have a picture to go off of. They don't have one camera slip or anything to compare you to or all these people that they say you are.
Well, Mushmouth is 100% sure.
The police would ask, how do you know this is Christopher Wignaw? What are they going to say?
listen to the voice. Listen, look at this. There's a clown on his Facebook page. That right there, that is enough, isn't it?
Where do they have a voice of Chris to compare to yours?
I don't know, but her and her people are combing through Truth Hurts videos and lives to find when Chris Wignall was actually in her chat. They're combing them right now. And she's slowly putting things up that she believes that is me. Me, this isn't the first time. Essie Berry wrote all kinds of letters to the the board about Ricky Anderson. It's been there. We've been through this before. For years, Pam has stated on hers that I was Michael Rappaport. That her sources have uncovered that I'm Michael Rappaport. Now, I'm supposedly Christopher Wignall.
How does she just change her mind if she's been calling you Michael Rappaport all this time? How does she just say, oh, since somebody else said you're Chris, that's who you are now?
Yeah, because she's a follower. She's not a leader. She's not someone that comes up with her own plan. She's not somebody that could put together anything that's coherent. So she just follows what everyone else says. All right, she's back. All right, back to business. We've been keeping.
It was the clown fault, Truth. It was the clown fault.
Yeah. What I do now? No, you did it. You brought it up, not me. Okay, she's not back yet. You okay? Call her, Trey. She only answers when you do it.
True.
I'm trying to find the time stone. We lost the time stone. I'm fine. Just irritated. I don't know why this damn thing keeps shutting down. It's getting on my fucking nerves. It's just. Ugh. Hold on, y'all. Let me find the time stone.
Than the pinging there at the Walmart, do we see that a phone hitting off any cell?
It does.
Okay. For purposes of our written record, can you use Veterans Memorial Parkway to travel from Eastern back east toward Jersey?
Yes.
Okay. And then when is it picked up next?
It would be northbound off that same camera at 5915 Woodland Avenue, heading north at 6:05 a.m.
And then from there, then the next camera that it would be picked up on would be what?
6:11 a.m. on mile marker 124.
Okay. Now, Andrea Culberson had testified that when Mr. Dinkins had picked up Detorius, he had left with a bag of the children's clothing. She had him take his cell phone and then called him back because there was another bag that children's clothing was in. And so he returned to the apartment. That path of travel that you've described through that video surveillance footage from those three locations, would that be consistent with the testimony provided by Andrea Culberson?
That would be.
All right. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay. I'm handing you State's Exhibit 62, and specifically, I want you to look at page 14 of that exhibit. Again, had you reviewed this CAS survey that Special Agent Fennerin completed for the defendant's phone records?
Yes.
All right, on page 14, as far as locations where Mr. Dinkins' cell phone was being plotted, the locations of where it's being plotted, is it consistent with the path of travel that you've described based on the camera at the Quick Star on 53rd, the camera for Judson that faces out onto Eastern, and then the other camera, Woodland Avenue, right?
Yes.
That faces out onto Jersey Ridge.
It does match that, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I publish this?
You may.
Describe what we're seeing on page 14 of this exhibit. And if you could take the pointer and then just look back on the screen to walk us through that. Where's 2744 East 53rd Street? And is there a number beside it?
Yes, it's labeled, there's a number below it that has 1.
All right. From there,
The motion, I mean, the arrows are indicating then it's towards west on 53rd, and then the next direction is north on Eastern.
and then from there,
It's a Veterans Memorial, and then heads back east on Veterans Memorial, and then south on Jersey Ridge Road.
all right. And then when you go back to that video surveillance footage, do we see it then traveling back north on Jersey Ridge?
We do.
All right. The numbering there, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is that consistent with the path of travel that you noted in the video surveillance footage?
It is consistent, yes.
Detective Obert, after those locations were plotted in the telephone records provided by Mr. Dinkins' service provider, do we see that phone hitting off any cell phone towers on Highway 61?
No,
Do we see that cell phone hitting off any cell phone towers as that vehicle turns onto Highway 30 and heads east into Clinton?
no,
Other than the pinging there at the Walmart, do we see that a phone hitting off any cell phone towers as it travels west on Highway 30 out of town?
no,
Do we see that cell phone hitting any towers at all as it travels south back on 61?
no.
And then at what point are we able to determine the location of that phone once again?
It's at approximately 8:08 a.m. And it's southwest part of Davenport.
If you could go down to our diagram and show us what area you are talking about. And that would be States Exhibit 38. Describe the area that you're pointing to.
There's I-280.
Don't take me there, just tell me the area generally, and then we'll walk a path.
Southwest part of Davenport, and it's lined by the Mississippi River.
Okay, would that be in the area of Credit Island?
Yes.
And would that be in the area of on Highway 61? Is there a major interstate that runs east and west that an individual can then access and travel around what would be our westernmost border of Scott County?
Yes.
Show us where I-80 is located on the diagram. Okay. So if you travel west on our diagram, if you're standing looking at it, where would it be located? Okay. And would that be to the left side of the exhibit?
Yes.
Now, as you continue west on 80, is there a north-south thoroughfare that runs along Davenport's western border?
There is.
What is that?
I-280.
Can you please show us? Okay. If you travel then south on 280, will that take you down to the area of River Drive?
Yes.
Okay. Can you get off of 280 and access the area of River Drive?
Yes.
Okay. For purposes of discussion, during this period of time, was there any construction going on down in that area along River Drive?
There was, and it's on the map as well.
All right, go ahead and take your seat. We'll talk about that. What's going on during that period of time?
It was at the intersection of River Drive and Rockingham Road.
Okay. And so if you got off of Highway 280 to access toward Credit Island, or would you have to take another route around that?
You'd have to.
Hold on, I'm confused myself. Why am I? Y'all know what? Y'all let me go all the way to the end. Fun here. Is Fun still on the call?
She had a phone call, or she was at a meeting or something. She had to step away.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, there she goes."
I went way to the end of his testimony. I was supposed to be at the beginning.
That wasn't the beginning.
No. See, this is why I gotta go.
Well,
Okay, so-
we saw that. We saw that part where he's talking about the phones, right? We didn't see that interrogation part.
That's what I'm
Right, because that should have been
saying.
coming up next.
That's what I'm saying. I would. I
Well,
went
don't
to the
blame
end.
me. Your shit the one that fucked up and you dropped off
Take
and
a
lost
detour.
your place.
Wow.
I'm not gonna.
Was that necessary?
I'm not even finna go there with Fun today. I just can't.
Was all that anger necessary?
I'm
Trey,
tired of
did
y'all
you-
coming for me.
Did you hear that, Trey?
Child, I'm
Y'all
just saying.
keep coming for me. Listen, I got up here happy and everything. Y'all came for me.
Describe what was the
What was he talking about when I dropped off, y'all?
Did I hear what? What she say, Clown?
Fawn just went in on her and said,
out there
Truth
at
got
the apartment.
garbage shit, and the shit is garbage, and should have heard her. She was going in on
See,
her.
now you putting words in my mouth. I didn't say her stuff was garbage. See what I'm saying? I said her shit was fucked up.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It was messing up. Her stuff was, her computer, her devices was messing up.
Hello.
What does that mean? She got.
Oh,
go ahead.
God.
He had just stepped away from the board, and he got back. He just stepped on the board. He just got back on the stand, and now she's going to talk about, I guess, the construction area and the route that he would have had to take because of the construction.
No, that's at the end. That's it. That's wrong. I wasn't supposed to go there.
That was all the way at the end. Yeah.
Statements were being gathered by Andrea Culberson. DL was also there. Other people were plastic bag containing children's clothing.
Okay, take us to number 3.
Laboratory item number 37.
Okay. The Davenport Police Department item number.
435.
What is that item?
Underwear from plastic bag containing children's clothing.
Our next item.
Laboratory item 38.
What is that item?
431.
For the Davenport Police Department?
Yes.
And then what is the item of evidence?
Washcloth from plastic bag containing children's clothing.
Okay. Our next item.
Laboratory item 48.
And then does our laboratory item number 48 have an associated exhibit with it?
The laboratory item 48-1, the sheath.
Okay.
From the machete.
And then what was the Davenport Police Department item number for the machete?
Davenport Police Department item number was 457.
Where was that machete and sheath seized from?
The apartment of Andrea Culberson.
All right, and then there were photographs that had been introduced through one of our civilian crime scene technicians that had responded to that address, showing a sheath with the sleeve over it underneath the mattress, but on top of the box springs. Is that where this item came from?
Yes.
Okay, so then essentially, how many machetes do we have in play?
2.
And the location for the second machete would have been where?
743 Schmidt Road, the defendant's motorhome.
And then what is our next item?
Laboratory item 54.
What is the Davenport Police Department evidence item number?
Is this Davenport police item number 32.
Now, the description on the lab reports stated shirt from Henry Dinkins. Did you provide information so that we know specifically which shirt we're talking about?
Yes.
And which shirt would this be?
It'd be the shirt that the defendant was wearing when he came to the police station on July 10th.
Okay. Would that have been around noon when he was interviewed?
Yes.
And then finally, our last item, what is that?
Laboratory item 55.
What is the descriptor for it?
Shirt from plastic bag
What's our Davenport police item number?
24.
And then when it says shirt from plastic bag, is there a further descriptor so we understand its association to items of evidence that were seized?
It's a child's shirt contained in the plastic bag. There's an MJ logo on it.
Okay,
Emblem.
all right. Were you? What day of the week was that, if you recall?
That was a Friday.
Did you become aware of a report being placed by Aisha Langford at 8:29 a.m. that morning to our communications specialist, Mona Varelli, that Briasia was missing?
I do.
Okay. At what point in time did you become aware of that call having been made?
When we were advised by Sergeant Pfeiffer of the call, and we started being en route at around 10:45, 10:50-ish.
Okay. Now, what was the dynamic of the investigation that prompted the Detective Bureau to go out to the apartment complex?
Officer Burkle was the first one on scene. He gathered information from the people that were on scene. He made the determination to reach out to his sergeant, which then in turn led to the sergeant of the Special Victims Unit to be notified. Reference 10-year-old girl that has been missing for an unknown amount of time. And our objective up there was to canvass the area, see if anyone has seen her or recover any video footage that could potentially show the Briasia's whereabouts.
Certainly. Now, with you having been on the department for a period of time, have you taken calls or responded to calls where parents or caretakers have contacted law enforcement and indicated that they can't find their child?
Yes.
Okay. And in the circumstances where you've responded to those types of calls, describe how that typically plays out.
When we get there, speak to the person reporting the missing child, gather history of that child, if there's a history of them running away, or potentially other people that they could be with, friends, other family members, and establish that sort of better knowledge or understanding of the person that's gone missing. Or
okay. And typically is that child found fairly quickly?
Depending on the history of the child, if it's a younger child that maybe 2 or 3, we've had several where they've wandered off and we're able to find them fairly quickly with the assistance from neighbors. And then if it's a child that has history of running away, it may be days before they're encountered again.
Certainly. Did this particular case have a different feel from prior calls that you've handled?
One of the things that stuck out initially was the report by the defendant and Aisha, the mother, was that this child has never ran away before, and the fact that this was her first time spending the night at this residence.
Okay. What is significant about this being the first time Briasia had ever stayed out at the Jersey Meadow apartment complex?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What's significant about that? The fact that this would have been her first time to be out at that apartment complex?
Unfamiliar with the area or anyone that would be living around there, so the likelihood of her wandering off is, I'd argue, slightly diminished.
Certainly. So then when you arrived, along with other members of the Detective Bureau, describe what was developing out there at the apartment complex.
Statements were being gathered by Andrea Culberson. DL was also there. Other people were doing just canvas searches of the places. Also, video camera footage. Unfortunately, that entire apartment complex did not have surveillance cameras.
Sure. And then was Aisha Langford also a subject that law enforcement was speaking to out there at the scene?
That is correct.
Okay. Now let's talk about this. When you're out in the field and there are individuals who have been identified as witnesses, are the interviews in the field extensive like they would be once individuals are brought into the police departments to be interviewed?
Field interviews do not gather as much much information as say an interview down at the police station. Just that it's a controlled environment. We can have a private conversation without anyone else listening, or have to just worry about other people interrupting while we're talking to individuals and gathering information.
And just as a matter of standard procedure, is it common practice that once a field interview has been done, individuals will be brought down to the Davenport Police Department where an interview can be conducted in a more controlled environment?
That is a common practice, yes.
And was that a practice that was followed in this particular instance?
It was.
Okay. Now, were you involved in either?
Not that morning, no.
Okay. At some point in time, were you redirected from that location?
Yes.
Okay, explain.
I was standing next to Aisha Langford, just gathering some initial information, and she received there was a phone call between her and the defendant. She asked where he was, and while standing there observing the conversation, she questioned about him being in the area of downtown. And that's when I asked for her to ask if we could meet him somewhere down there in that area. He responded that he'd come back up to the scene. And then just for time and convenience sake, I offered the suggestion of the Davenport Police Station since he was already downtown and that someone can meet with him quicker and get information.
When you had that conversation with Mr. Dinkins, how did he respond to that?
We agreed to meet down there.
Okay, and then so let me clarify this. Was this suggestions that you were making to Aisha that she then communicated to Mr. Dinkins?
Yes.
Okay, so you never had any direct conversation with Mr. Dinkins?
That is correct.
Okay. Throughout the time that you were out there at the apartment complex, was Mr. Dinkins ever on scene?
No.
Okay. And had there been discussion Dinkins having left the scene after that initial point of contact?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware of Officer Burkle trying to contact Mr. Dinkins multiple times by telephone and not being able to connect with him?
I vaguely remember there was at least some sort of reach out to him about trying to get a hold of him again.
Okay. What happened next?
I responded to the Davenport Police Station.
Okay. What time would you have gotten down to the Davenport Police Department?
It was shortly after the defendant arrived at the police station.
Okay. What time did Mr. Dinkins arrive at the Davenport Police Department?
12:01.
With him. There's another topic with you. Who was the party that called to report the child missing?
Aisha Langford.
Who was the individual that the child had been in the care and control of?
The defendant.
Did Mr. Dinkins ever call the Davenport Police Department and report that child missing?
No.
Did you find that troubling?
That was one of the things that we'd wonder. Maybe he wanted to give Aisha the chance, but it definitely was something to consider.
Certainly. Is Mr. Dinkins present in the courtroom today?
He is.
Could you please point him out and describe what he's wearing for our record?
He's wearing glasses and plaid shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that identification?
The records still reflect.
Okay. When you arrived at the Davenport Police Department, where was Mr. Dinkins located at?
In an interview room on the second floor of the police department.
Okay. Are these rooms where interviews are typically conducted for any individual, whether they be, a witness or even a potential suspect?
That is correct.
Okay. And so had Mr. Dinkins already been taken up to that interview room before you got there?
That is correct.
All right. Now I want to set the stage for the sequence of events. Relative to interviews that were being conducted, who was the first individual to be interviewed at the Davenport Police Department that day?
The defendant.
All right. What time did his interview start?
I began speaking with him at approximately 12:11 p.m.
That being said, did Aisha Langford ever come to the Davenport Police Department to be interviewed?
That is correct.
Did DL ever come to the Davenport Police Department to be interviewed?
That is also correct.
Did Andrea Culberson come to the Davenport Police Department to be interviewed?
That is correct.
Who were you involved with as those individuals were responding? And actually, let me rephrase that question. Who was conducting, or who was the lead detective on the interview for Aisha Langford and DL?
Myself and Detective Hamas.
All right. Who started that interview process off first?
At the police station, it was myself.
Okay, with those two?
Yes.
And then when you started to speak with them, had you... And then who would have been involved in the interview of Andrea Culberson?
That would have been done with Detective Ann Siebert.
Okay. Were those interviews then occurring at different points in time?
Yes.
And so with that being said, as each interview is occurring, is more information coming to law enforcement where you could put together the big picture?
That is, I'd agree with that, yes.
Okay. When you walked in to start your interview with Henry Dinkins, what information did you have for purposes of, setting up the construct of questions that you would be asking?
The most, and the defendant and Asia were both missing from the apartment, and that was essentially it.
Okay. And then did you have any information about Henry Dinkins having come back to the apartment a short time later with Andrea having contact with him in the apartment and seeing Asia standing out there on the passenger side of the maroon Chevy Impala?
That was not information provided until 4 days later.
Okay. So when you started your interview, you had very limited information.
Yes.
Okay. Describe how that process started.
Gathered his information, and then some of the topics that we discussed was how he got down there, where was the Impala that was registered to Andrea Culberson, and then also gathering information about Asia and the events that unfolded from when he picked up her and DL up until he notices that she is missing.
Okay. When you say that you gathered personal information, what types of information are you? Certainly. Was there discussions with Mr. Dinkins about the nature of his relationship with Andrea Culberson?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, was there a discussion with Mr. Dinkins about the nature of his relationship with Andrea Culberson?
There was.
Okay. Did you have discussions with Mr. Dinkins about the nature of his relationship with Aisha Langford?
Yes.
Would there have been discussions about any familial relationship he had with one of her children?
Yes.
All right. And then through that process, you indicated that you'd asked him about a vehicle that he had been driving?
That is correct.
Okay. And why was that a topic of inquiry?
Being that he was gone for a certain amount of time, it was just something that we wanted to double check on, a potential place that Breasia could be.
Certainly. All right. So if Officer Burkle has arrived out at the apartment complex, generally what time of the morning would that have been?
When he first meets with Officer Burkle, that is at 8:55 a.m.
All right. And then so after Mr. Dinkins leaves that apartment complex, is his whereabouts essentially unknown until he arrives at the Davenport Police Department at noon?
There was some pings that we were able to get general locations, but that was sporadic.
Okay. And was that later on in the investigation?
That was prior to him showing up to the Davenport Police Department.
Okay. And then we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But at any rate, with a missing child, is it concerning that Mr. Dinkins was out moving about and officers had no idea where he was going or what it is that he was doing?
Yeah, I mean, we typically like to have people until we can gather all their information, and a lot of people will wait and be like, all right, do you need me? Can I head out? Can I do this or that? It was just the sudden leaving of the defendant that was concerning.
Certainly.
In the amount of time.
All right. Now, when you were speaking with Mr. Dinkins in the interview room, are the interview rooms set up with any type of video surveillance cameras?
They are.
Okay. Are these interviews recorded?
They are.
Did your contact with Mr. Dinkins, was it recorded?
It was.
And then was that interview preserved and placed on a disc?
It was.
Okay. We're going to play that, but what I want to do is I just want to generally touch on topics of conversations and what it is that we should be looking for. So you've had the conversation about relationships, correct?
That is correct.
Relative to the conversation about what vehicle he had come to the department driving, is there anything that we need to really focus on when you engage in that portion of the discussion?
His initial statements about where that vehicle is, and it's first told that someone else is out driving around, and then later in the interview it was advised that it was around the block.
Okay. Had there been a bolo put out for that vehicle?
Yes, it was relayed over radio traffic to for other officers to be aware of this maroon Impala that we need to locate.
And while you were in the interview room with Mr. Dinkins, were you notified that a patrol officer actually had located that maroon Chevy Impala?
That is correct.
Okay. Where had that maroon Chevy Impala been located relative to the address of the Davenport Police Department?
It would have been at 4th and Main, which is 1 block east of the police department.
And is there parking right there in front of the Davenport Police Department where an individual could park?
That is correct.
Okay. So was this portion of the conversation about that vehicle and information that he's giving to you something that became of interest?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Was this portion of the conversation about the vehicle and its location, was this a topic that became a subject of interest as you went through the interview?
It was.
Okay. And then from there, did you have any discussions with him about how it is that Breasia and DL were spending time with him?
Yes.
Okay. Did he talk with you about contact to stay with him?
That is correct.
Okay. And then were there discussions about activities the previous day when he had picked the children up on July 9th?
There was.
All right. Did you have any discussions with him about what he had done after he picked the children up on July 9th?
Yes.
Okay. Did that include discussions of what occurred at the apartment once he returned to the apartment with DL and Breasia?
That is correct.
And then were there any discussions about sleeping arrangements?
There was.
All right. And then beyond that, did he talk with you just about the nature of the child or the nature of Breasia and whether or not she'd be a child to wander off?
He said she would never, ever leave.
Okay.
Along those
And
words.
then throughout the interview, what is it that you wanted to be able to establish so that we understand this when we watch your conversations with him?
One of the most important parts I was trying to establish with the from the apartment.
Okay. Where you have a missing child, is it important to establish a timeline?
Yes.
Why?
Based on the time that she's gone missing and the circumstances around where she was at when she went missing, based on time, it helps us gauge, all right, how long or how far, if she did truly walk away, could she have gotten in this amount of time? How far do we have to take our canvas? Are we talking she's been missing for an hour or several hours? When you have several hours of her whereabouts unknown, it starts to become concerning about, especially when no one else is reporting, seeing this girl walking in that immediate area.
Okay. And would it be concerning if the child has been missing for several hours and Mr. Dinkins hadn't reached out to the Davenport Police Department? Then, as you're trying to establish that timeline, do you engage in any discussions with Mr. Dinkins about where he had been at and traveled to once the child was described as missing?
Yes, we had a conversation or tried to have a conversation about where he would have been out, what he says, looking for her. And at one point in the interview, I printed off some Google Map printouts of the general area of the apartment complex and the surrounding areas, and brought it into the interview with the defendant and just simply asked him to mark on there kind of areas that you checked so we could cross-reference that.
Okay. When you presented those Google Maps to Mr. Dinkins, what kind of response did you get?
He said he's just been all over the Quad City area and that he wouldn't mark on the map any place that he specifically went to look for her.
At any point in the interview, did he ever mark on those maps?
No.
At any point in the interview, did he ever give you specific information as to locations he had traveled to when he said he was looking for her?
Not in reference to looking for her, besides going down in the motorhome, but that was for a different reason.
Certainly. And then did you, when you are dealing with subjects and you're doing interviews, do you watch just their emotional comportment?
Yeah, of how they're composing themselves while they're talking. Are they relaxed? Are they nervous, on edge, or angry, mad, upset? Those are observations we make as we speak with people.
And as the interview progressed, what is it that we should look for relative to his emotional composure?
It probably can't see it well in the recording, but being as how close I was sitting next to the defendant, I noticed how heavy he was breathing throughout, and just statements that he make it that this is crazy throughout.
Okay. Okay. Your Honor, may the record reflect that I'm showing counsel what's marked as State's Exhibit 125. May I approach?
You may.
I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 125 for purposes of identification. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 125?
The case of it, yes.
All right. And what is our Exhibit 125?
It's going to be the video recording of the interview with the defendant and myself.
Okay. Was this the interview that occurred on July 10th then when you had your contact with him at the Davenport Police Department?
That is correct.
Have you had an opportunity to review the video interview that you had with Mr. Dinkins?
Prior to today, it's been a while, but I've reviewed my report along with it.
And then was your contact with him properly documented through that video surveillance or through that video footage?
Sorry, what was that?
Was your conversation and contact with him captured on that video camera?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would move to introduce State's Exhibit 125.
No objection.
Exhibit 125 will be admitted.
Your Honor, may we play State's Exhibit 125?
You may.
Okay, y'all. Okay, we're gonna stop it right there now. We've seen this, for those that was in that live, we've seen this interrogation, but I'm gonna let it play out. I'm gonna play it, let it watch. I'm sorry, y'all. We're gonna continue tomorrow. We're gonna watch the interrogation again, even though we've seen it. And now that we know some more of the stuff that we know, maybe we can. Hindsight is 2020. Y'all know what I say. But anywho, That's it for today. Fun gone.
Has left.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, fun gone. But thank you for joining today. I appreciate it. Thank you, D Truth. Thank you, Trey. D Truth, you want to say anything before we end it right here?
Oh no. I think we're actually somewhere in the middle, right? We're actually in the middle. We're almost in the middle.
Yeah.
But most of the damning testimony has already been done. These guys are just wrapping it up in a little bow.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like just putting everything into like this puzzle.
Yeah.
Puzzle is coming together. Yeah.
I don't see the defense having very many witnesses to begin with. Witness.
Yeah.
You know.
You back following fun? You want to say anything before we get off?
No.
All right, Cheetah.
No.
Okay, so I had to throw a last shot on. Thank you, Big Sugar. Thank you, Missy Lou. Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all listening. I appreciate y'all supporting. I really, really do. Thank y'all so much. We're gonna continue tomorrow, y'all. We're gonna continue tomorrow. And we are gonna watch the interrogation again, just because maybe we'll, like I said, since we've heard all this other stuff, maybe we'll see some stuff. But anywho, D Truth tonight at 7 Central. Trey. I slap her. You probably ain't I don't see anything scheduled for later. You going live later? So let me know.
I think I am at the normal bet scheduled time.
Okay, great. Right. So D-Truth at 7.
Maybe Kelly didn't go to sleep to 3 a.m. last night, so who knows? She
damn. Trey potentially at 10:10 Central Standard Time. I'm going back and forth on whether or not I'm gonna come on at like 4:30 to get that part 2 of my live from last night done, or wait until tomorrow. So I'm not sure on that yet. If I decide to do it, I'll post it. But I just don't know right now. Thank you, Leo. But anyway, we're gonna be out for here. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a beautiful rest of the day, okay? And as always, thanks to my wonderful panel, even though Fun appreciated me all day, I love her dearly.
I did not throw.
It was pretty hostile today.
Did I start it? I'm not paying attention to the clown. I can't with him.
If y'all hit the like button, please hit it on the way out. I'm trying to keep this commentary in the algorithm. So yeah, I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Y'all be safe. Be blessed. Don't stress. And I will see you all later. If not at like 4 or 4:30 on my T channel, then I'll see y'all over at the circus. And it will be a circus. Miss Liz is gonna go in. Oh yeah.
I think there's going to be a couple of fuck yous in there from Liz.
Oh yeah.
I'm here for it.
I'm telling you, Paul, right?
Sometimes
I will say this, Paul. You and Miss Liz, y'all sort of kind of remind me of each other. I don't know what it is. I think it's your demeanor, and you can say "fuck you" so calmly, because usually when I say "fuck you," it's all hyper.
It does roll off of Fong's tongue really easy. Fuck you.
A cool operator.
I'll be trying not to go there. I swear for Lord, I do.
She will warn you that it's coming. Like she will warn you. Like
she'll be like, fuck you.
Right. Leave me alone. Like, dude. What's the problem? Seriously.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, I'm here for it later. So with that being said, y'all be good and please be safe. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And until tomorrow morning on this channel, I will see y'all tomorrow morning on this channel. All right? Y'all be good. Love y'all. This is my regular. I'm talking. Takes me better. This is my regular. I'm talking. Takes me better.
Bye.